that pops up.
Do you feel like you're ready to fight and this is your best chance effectively to win a championship?
It's definitely the best chance I've had since I've entered Formula One. However, I'm still very realistic in the sense of even if we go out and win this weekend, or even if we have a bad weekend, this race in Melbourne doesn't define the whole season, and we've got to keep open-minded and keep pushing on.
So I know a lot of people have called you a favourite. You kind of described it as noise, but you must take a lot out of that. There must be a lot of respect, you know, from other people to you to call you a favourite, so you must take a lot from that.
Yeah, I guess so, and I guess it just goes to show for the work that I've done and achieved over the years gone by. But you know, this is now my 8th year in Formula One. I feel I've got plenty of experience under my belt, so I just feel in a really good place with the people I've got around myself, physically, mentally. It's sort of everything as this moment is looking great.
George, well, thank you very much for your time. Best of luck for the rest of the season.
So, George Russell, in his 8th season in Formula One, Jolyon, is this his time? Can he do it? Can he become world champion?
I feel like it is his time, and that's why I think if you're Kimi, you need to get under his skin, because he just looks so comfortable. Yesterday was serene. The Mercedes turned up the power unit. They were working so well, and George is putting every single lap together. He's got an air of confidence. If you look at him last year, he drove a really, really good season in what was a tricky year for Mercedes, but his consistency was good, his performance generally. He put Kimi in the shade for a lot of the season, and now he's got the best car. It categorically is that, at least around this circuit. It's going to take some catching, and he's a driver at the top of his game. It feels like it's his time, so we'll see if Kimi can step up and destabilize.
Do you agree with that, Juan Pablo?
Yeah, but it's much easier to lead a team when you're not leading the championship and you're not winning the races. The pressure of winning the races complicates their life. You know what I mean? When you're leading a team and you're the 3rd team or 4th team or whatever, and you know, if you do a great job, you might win a race. It's much easier than being the eyes of the whole championship. You know what I mean? You're on the spot for every mistake, for everything. So I think that's a lot closer.
We saw that last year with Lando, didn't we? He was ahead of Oscar for 2 years, and suddenly the pressure, he came as the title favourite, didn't enjoy it, and he was unsettled for the first third of the year. So I think it's a great point. We've not seen George in this stage of his career yet.
Yeah, do you think George will thrive, Ruth, in this scenario of sort of being chased?
I think he will if he gets leading out of turn 1. This race, managing 2 fast cars isn't trivial. Last time we had the Mercedes dominancy here in 2018, they flipped the cars. Lewis didn't win because of the safety car call, it was a virtual safety car. Valtteri went on to win. It's more than just in the driver's hands today. It's going to be about execution. Unless they can have a pit stop gap to every other car, there could be different strategies across the garages that could seal their fates.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? The team orders of Mercedes could be fascinating. And Jolyon, George Russell did say that it was like a perfect storm that allowed him to get into this position. He said Max wasn't there and he thought Max would be his biggest rival. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's probably true, because you've got Isaac Hadjar there in 3rd instead, and logic would say that even if he did a great job, Hadjar, you'd put Verstappen ahead, but it doesn't matter. Hadjar's 8 tenths back. Verstappen is not going to be 8 tenths quicker than Isaac. He actually was doing a great job through practice, Isaac. So maybe it would be half a second back to Max. I do nonetheless think this circuit is particularly good for Mercedes. The energy deployment is so savage around here. We're seeing a lot of harvesting. We'll see that through the Grand Prix. We saw it yesterday. Drivers decelerating into corners, just desperate to feed that battery with energy. Mercedes are the best at that. There'll be other races coming up where you can go more flat out into the corners, and it'll be a different style of racing.
Okay, well, we can head now to the studio for the first time today and say hello to Alex Brundle, who's been having a look at George Russell against Kimi Antonelli in their laps yesterday.
Kimi Antonelli was pretty impressive in qualifying, almost as impressive as the Mercedes engineers who played high-speed Meccano to get his car ready for Q1. He enters his lap with a little bit less energy to play with, though, than teammate George Russell, who'll steal a tenth of a second and end the lap 3 tenths ahead of the young Italian. It's also 16 kilometres per hour quicker through the apex of 1 for George Russell, meaning Antonelli is 2 tenths back at this stage after the first couple of corners, but he's going to fight back. Down towards turn 3, he's very committed on the brakes, gets a really nice car position as well for turn 4, opens that up, takes a tenth back to George Russell as they run through 5 down towards turn 6, where even these 2 drivers from the same team take a subtly different approach. Kimi Antonelli charging in, Russell just waiting, taking a downshift and getting out, recuperating a little bit of energy through the exit. Now, it's looking pretty good for Kimi Antonelli at this stage. Maybe it's because one of these cars is perfect and one of them is patched after the bump in FP3, or maybe Antonelli's just carrying a little bit more downforce, but he starts to fall back while the cars are still both pulling at full velocity. 41 metres is then the difference between the ramp down for the two drivers. There's his 0.3 of a second that he could have used to be on pole position. He loses a little bit more down towards turn 11 as well. But Kimi's Mercedes is pretty good on the front end for a car they didn't have time to set down or set up before he launched out into Q1. He takes a bit of time back through turn 11, slightly slower through turn 10, and then bosh! Lovely braking down towards 13, 1/10 of a second back for Antonelli, and those inputs could have put him on pole another day, but it wasn't the smoothest of Saturdays, was it, for the young Italian? He's closer than he looks.
Thank you very much, Alex Brundle. Jolyon, you want to pick up off the back of that, don't you?
Well, yeah, it just shows really how important the energy management is. When you look at Kimi through the corners, he's pretty much bang on with George, certainly for the first half, but it looked like he just didn't. Corners at the moment with this set of regulations, so it's a different way to find the lap time.
It is indeed. Well, as you can see, we have now moved down and we're outside Ferrari. Ruth, we know that Ferrari have got those fast starts. They caught everybody's eye in Bahrain in pre-season testing. Do you think they could cause a problem today?
I think any car can actually win this race if they can finish it first off. Mercedes is definitely not done. I've just caught Fred's eye there, and he kind of gave me a rocket ship image. I think they're going to be fast off the starts. Execution's going to be everything, and they can afford to, play an off strategy compared to Mercedes, for example. Stay out longer, wait for a safety car, wait for a red flag, because I don't think anyone's going to be able to clear a looming Max Verstappen as he makes his way through the field. And boxing behind any car in this racetrack, you can catch you out. No one knows the overtaking difficulty right now. Could be anything, and they're going to have to work that out in the race. I think Ferrari, don't count them out.
Well, that's exciting. Juan, let's come to you and talk about Lewis Hamilton. P7 for him. He do you think he's disappointed in that? Because it looked like he had a lot more pace yesterday.
In a way, he's not far. He was in the window with all the rest of the drivers, but I think he was expecting a lot more. I think he knew he had a lot more, and I think that makes a big thing. You know what I mean? It's like he built all weekend. He did everything all weekend to show he had the pace. And when you don't put it together in qualifying, it's just frustrating. It's just, you left something on the table. And, we'll see what happens today.
Okay, well, Charles Leclerc is starting P4. He could capitalise on that fast start, maybe. We'll see. He's talking to Lawrence.
Well, Charles, just a quiet week for you. Congratulations. Tying the knot.
Yes, yeah, I'm very, very happy. Alex and I are both very, very happy. It went amazing. We are surrounded by positivity, mostly for the wedding. For the season in itself, it's still very early days, and for now, we just need to be objective and stay calm and just focus on ourselves, which is what we do. But it gave me a big, big smile on my face and a very special moment in both of our lives.
Obviously, new rules for this year. I think it's the biggest rule set you've ever had in your career. Is it pretty exciting to take on that challenge as an elite athlete?
It's a really, really big challenge because everything we've learned so far in our career, most of it is being put into question, and you kind of need to change the way you see things. Let's say I've done a lot of homework and I feel very much ready. Everything is under control, which is not a given considering how difficult these cars are to understand, and especially at the beginning, but it becomes quite natural, quite fast.
Let's talk about your partnership with Lewis, second year in. How are you just generally getting on when you're kind of working together?
We're getting on super well. I mean, we spent a lot of days together back at the factory and we have a great relationship. So we're both super motivated and excited to start this new season. And we are trying to do the very best job, and hopefully this is the year we'll bring Ferrari back to the top.
How excited are you about the first race of the season here?
It's always been tracks where I've been struggling with my driving style for whatever reason. But in 2022, I beat that and we won here, and it was actually a very strong weekend. But I know that I've got to do everything perfect in order to be at the level where I want to be on a track like this. So that's my target. It's not an excuse, and I want to do the maximum, but it's definitely one of those tracks where you've got to work a little bit harder in order to do the best.
How optimistic are you, just in the feeling that you get inside this team right now, about what is possible this year?
I'm very happy about the way we work during testing, and that's the very first important step. Then in terms of performance, it's very difficult to know because we don't know if anybody showed their true potential at any point, and I honestly don't think anybody did. So my gut feeling is that Mercedes is a bit ahead, and we are there with Red Bull and McLaren. So, but time will tell, not much long to wait.
Well, Charles Leclerc certainly seems very happy coming into this season. Congratulations to him on his wedding. Jolyon, he said that he knew Mercedes would be ahead, but he didn't realise they'd be that far ahead. Now feels like he's on the back foot. What do you make of that?
Well, he said it's not his favourite track, which I think is evident from his level of performance over the years. Bahrain, he's very good at. He was the king of winter testing there. And I also think this is not the favourite track of Ferrari right now. The same reason, as I said before, for Mercedes, they're able to get that deployment and that harvesting. Ferrari are really quick through the corners, but they're just losing too much time on the straights with energy management issues. There will be circuits coming up. Bahrain, if we go there, will be one where he's great and they would be good again. But there'll be plenty of others where they will be so much more competitive. But as has already been alluded to, their starts are really good. So if he can get towards the front off the line, you never know. He could still mix it, get some clear air, and find some consistent pace.
Juan, what do you think he can do?
It all depends how good he gets up the line. Because if he can get up the line well, he might even get to George. You know what I mean? Being fourth, you can get to, like you see it in the other classes, like Formula 2, Formula 3. Anybody in the top 5 can get a blinding start and makes a huge difference. So we might see the Ferraris right on the front end. And I think you look at Hadjar yesterday, he said, if I can keep third place, I think they're worried and they know that Ferrari have mega starts.
Agree with that, Ruth?
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter where you start on the grid today. I think we could end up with a really topsy-turvy race. And they're not the fastest car, but perhaps there'll be opportunities for them to capitalise on. Start, for example, could get a 1-2, back everybody up like Monaco. Anything's possible.
Anything is possible. Okay, coming up on the show then, we will continue our walk down the pit lane. Jolyon Palmer gets in a supercar. Alex Jakes will be at green light. And we will continue building up to our first race of the year.
Once more in the studio around this really fast track to look at some of the aerodynamic changes for this year. Firstly, the floor has become flatter and the cars rely much less on the ground effect. These barge boards are the equivalent of making campers pick up their own rubbish. They take this outwash that normally comes out of the front tyre and they post it in underneath the floor of your own car to make it easier to follow for the car behind. That outwash, one of the key things which changes the way the cars behave when they follow. The changes to the front and rear wing for straight mode and corner mode. And these end plates also do the same thing as those barge boards do, directing the air back underneath the car to make sure that it's not affecting the car which follows closely behind. As such, these flow deflectors are no longer needed. They've gone with the previous generation of car. Moving on, we've got a bigger rear diffuser to steal back some of the downforce that was lost from the floor. Cars are in general slightly shorter in terms of their wheelbase, and front and rear tyres are also much smaller this year. Aerodynamicists will be mourning the loss of the rear beam wing. It was a great opportunity for them to gain downforce. They can no longer play with that. They've got to use other aerodynamic devices to try to scoop back as much compression as they possibly can.
So, new regulations for 2026, it's all changed here. Ruth, what can we expect from this track, do you think?
Expect the unexpected. Max carving through, medium starters, maybe medium hard, someone mucking it up by boxing too early, getting undercut by a safety car and a red flag, topsy-turvy order, everything and anything.
Well, Julian, you've been on the track already in a supercar. How was that?
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, straight from the airport as I arrived, I had a couple of laps, but it was nice to get the helmet back on and nice to feel the grip of the car underneath me again.
Lovely stuff. Well, let's see how he got on then. Here's Julian in a supercar.
So we're racing in Melbourne, and that means we're joined by the supercars once again. JC, last time we had a lot of fun. You drove me around the circuit. We got out of the car and you said next year you can drive, but you've retired. What's going on?
Look, Anton's going to take the reins. He's young, he's exciting, he's going to, he's happy enough to sit beside you. But yeah, I was that scared of being a passenger driver. Retired early.
Is that bad a prospect?
It is frightening.
So what do I need to know, Anton?
Oh, mate, you'll have a great time. Car's heavy, doesn't do a lot of things very good, but yeah, awesome fun to drive. So we'll have a good time.
Let's go for it. Anton, tell me all about what's behind the Topi. That's what I need to know now.
We'll jump in, I'll show you what you need to look for and how to adjust things if you need to on the fly.
Pretty good. Elegantly done, hey?
Yeah.
Right.
It's a car, like obviously you've got 3 pedals instead of the 2.
Up shift, down shift?
Yeah, not quite.
Right, that's on this.
So you've got the big sequential towards you's up, and you can do that flat out.
Yeah.
As long as you're in the shift. So like all the shift lights here, they work as you used to. But if you're low in the revs, you'll have to dap off because it won't be nice. But
okay. We've got a busy steering wheel here.
Yeah, we won't need any of them.
I'm going to leave this. I'm going to leave this.
That says I race.
Your trusted settings.
I like it.
And enjoy.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Have you sat on the wrong side of your own car before?
No, this feels so weird, man.
Not mucking around, but he could be pushing harder.
Whoa, nice one, dude.
Good job, man.
Thanks for that.
That was cool.
Guys, that was so much fun. Thanks for teeing it up. Thanks for sitting with me there, Anton. They're good cars, aren't they?
I was having fun. I had a smile on my face the whole time.
Yeah, great. Well,
next year, you'll be ready to go in the race next year.
Yeah, maybe that's the next
Wild
step.
card.
I'll tell you what, I might need a lot more work before I do that. Good luck this weekend. Thanks very much.
Cheers,
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
I just asked Jolyon if he was good in that car, and he laughed and went, of course I was good. Anyway, we are building up to our opening race of the 2026 season, so that means it is time to throw down to our lead commentator, Alex Jakes, who's poised and ready to go at green light.
Thank you very much, Betty Glover. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Formula One in 2026. The whole gang's here, and we're ready to see some practice starts. Itching to get out for his first ever Grand Prix start, Arvid Lindblad, the only rookie in the field, 18 years of age. He'll have the first practice start. They all await the green light at the end of the pit lane. And the world champion says hello and welcome to the new season. Lando Norris was parked up, but let's have a look at the Ferrari, because the Ferrari is absolutely sensational off the line, and we're going to see a practice start for Charles Leclerc. Starts fourth on the grid today, the Monegasque driver. And that small turbo in the Ferrari spools up really quickly. It gives him an immediate launch off the line. Next up, the Williams drivers, including Carlos Sainz, a former winner around here. My word, is it loud, even compared to previous years. It's extraordinary down here. You can see everyone's crawling out, and Sainz does a bit of a start, but then immediately we're going slowly out of the pit lane by design. So the drivers getting used to this incredible sea change of regulations. Alex Albert is the next driver. Lot of wheel spin. You saw the difference between the Williams and the Ferrari. The practice starts that are so important, counting for so much. Here's the man from the front row. Kimi Antonelli didn't even bother to send it back to the grid.
Oh, there's been a big crash there, Juan Pablo Montoya. We don't actually have the pictures, we can't see, but it looks like something, Oscar Piastri lost a little bit of control. We can't see anything.
They haven't showed anything, but it sounds like Oscar crashed the car going to the grid.
We're going to throw back down to our lead commentator, Alex Jakes, because he has got eyes on this. Alex, what has happened?
Oscar Piastri, the home favourite, has hit the wall. He said he's okay, but extraordinarily, we've already lost a McLaren from this race. And he's gone off. They've deployed the recovery car, but Oscar Piastri is climbing out of the car. The front wing is off the car. And the Australian driver, who so wanted to do well for a home support, has gone off on the reconnaissance lap to the grid. It's happened on the lap to the grid. It hasn't happened on the formation lap. It hasn't happened in the final stages. He has managed to go off before he has even formed up to take the start of the lights, and he walks away disconsolately, helmet on, shoulders down, and Oscar Piastri's day over before it even begins. That is an extraordinary development, and we're going to get a replay now. We're on board with Piastri. He's heading down to turn number 3. Remember, this is just the reconnaissance lap, and Piastri's going to now make his way into turn 4. Over the curb, off the curb, into the wall, out of the Grand Prix. Absolutely extraordinary. And Piastri will be a disconsolate figure, because all he's done through this corner is clip the curb on the exit, the car loses it, and he has never had a more disappointing crash in his entire motor racing career. Heartbreak for the home favourite, who will not form up on the grid. It's just a minor moment with a major repercussion. Extraordinary. We're down 1. There'll be 21 taking the start of the season opener. Back to you, Betty.
Wow, confirmation then that Oscar Piastri will not be starting this race. Juan Pablo, we're on the grid. We can see all of the Australian fans here who are looking dumbfounded. You just watched that back on replay. What happened?
I think it was going slow enough, but you can hear that there's a noise, like there's a bottoming or either a flat tire or something broke, because there's no way, it's not normal.
How will Oscar be feeling in this moment? Because it can't get any worse.
No, you know what I mean? You're not doing anything wrong. You get on the curb, but before he gets in the curb, you can hear the car bottoming. You can hear it like scraping, and as soon as it's scraping, it goes over the curb, the car just takes off.
On his home race as well, Juan Pablo, on the opening race of the season. I mean, McLaren had a lot of hopes for this. They didn't think they'd be, you know, the fastest car, but they knew they'd be up there. How disappointing is this for a McLaren?
Well, it's hard because it's just miles and learning, you know, go through the start. Now, you know, when we go to China next week, Oscar's is going to be first start. Everybody had done the starts. We haven't even talked about, you know, everybody's going to get into turn 1, and everybody needs to recover energy for the shoot to turn 3. So you're going to see everybody being really aggressive on that, but it might cause problems like it happened to Max yesterday. You know, so how aggressive the teams are going to be. The more you recover, the more power you're going to deploy into turn 3, but the more you recover, the more chance you have of losing the car.
Oscar Piastri, that was hoping, you know, to get his season off on an amazing note after what happened last season. How does a driver pick themselves up from this?
It's not his mistake. It doesn't look like he did anything wrong, so it's not a big deal. I mean, it's frustrating, but we all done it. We all run into turn 1 and throw the car off. I've done it more than once, so it's
How did
frustrating.
that feel when you did it?
That's okay. You go, oh my God, I'm the idiot. You know, this is hard because he didn't even make the start, but it's not his fault. You don't see anything that he did completely out of control. You can hear it. The surprising part is when you hear stuff like that, you need to be more aware and go, oh, there's something here.
I'm just looking at the hundreds of Australian fans that are just sat there in front of us. People have got their head in their hands. They can't believe what they just witnessed on the big screen. We can see some of the McLaren sort of mechanics. What implications will this have for McLaren, and what Zach Brown is going to tell Lando to do now?
No, just business as usual. It's two sides of the garage. Everybody's going to execute their own race. If Oscar had priority on the strategy, now everything goes to focus on one car. That in a way is not bad. I mean, you still got Lando, still competitive. It's a shame for Oscar because he's been ahead of Lando all week, and he looks stronger than Lando, and he's done an amazing job. I think Lando was always catching up, and he got really close in qualifying, but at the end, Oscar prevailed.
You say that it's okay, but we know with these new 2026 regulations, all of these changes, picking up as much data as possible is going to be so important for these drivers and these teams. So this could have a massive impact on the start of Oscar Piastri's season going on.
Yeah, it's just understanding the tires, because when you do all the race simulation and testing, you don't get as much of a clear picture of what you're going to get here. Bahrain is really aggressive on the tires, so the drop-off and everything is not what you're going to get here. Here you get more consistency. Like Lando's, just the amount of knowledge Lando's going to get over him is huge. So I think Oscar, his job right now is to get with his engineers, look at what happened, and then just focus and follow Lando's race and what's going on Lando and understand it to feed himself into the next week.
Okay, well, we've had a massive shock here at the Australian Grand Prix on the opening race of the season. Oscar Piastri is out. It's a Mercedes 1-2 at the front. Will Isaac Hadjar be able to cause them any problems in the Red Bull?
Wow, the crowds let out a sigh of complete dejection when the home favourite, it was a jump cut on the big screens that are littered around this circuit, and they're stunned. There's a real picture in the grandstand of everyone being stunned. I'm still talking to you down at green light, so sorry for the noise. The Ferrari starts are absolutely musty. They are superb. The Williams starts have not been great. Intriguingly, the Mercedes ones somewhere in the middle. George Russell feels, I felt on his push lap yesterday, that took pole position. He had more in the tank. Russell knows that as the pre-season favourite, accruing a huge number of wins at the start of the year, no matter the development that we get from Red Bull, McLaren and Ferrari, could be enough. Think back, 2009, Jenson Button started the season with a dominant car. And then it was outdeveloped, still enough to take the title. Max Verstappen's practice start, absolutely immense. There's no problem for him and the Red Bull Ford powertrain. So look out for a disparity at the start in a few moments' time. It is going to be high drama. We've already had some before we've even got going. But remember, then it is a case of the teams improvising, understanding what they've got underneath them, because there is no muscle memory in modern Formula One. They will be learning with every single lap that they go. You are half an hour away from the opening Grand Prix of the year.
Devastating then for Oscar Piastri and McLaren, the opening race of the year and his home race as well. Let's head over to Alex Brundle in the studio to talk about this more. Alex, can you tell us anything else? What have you noticed?
Well, it's just at such slow speed, Betty. He's literally just trundling around, doing his reconnaissance laps, comes out of turn 3. It looks to be a combination between the curb, the power delivery, and everything else for Oscar Piastri on the exit of turn 4, rolling through turn 3. He's literally just come directly out of the pits this moment, finding his feet out on the racetrack. I think just a moment of inattention here for Piastri. He's going to get to this outside curb and then straddles this outside curb of turn 4. I think it's the end of the curb as he falls off the end of the curb. If we just watch it again, the car just falls off the end of the curb at really slow speed here, and it coincides with the moment he puts the throttle on. You see the revs jump, look there, and there's a little bit of wheel spin to go with it, and that's enough. You know, for the second, so much of the time here we forget how difficult it is when these cars are not completely up to temperature, and it's just completely caught Oscar Piastri out. Disaster for him at his home Grand Prix, the driver who was supposed to start 5th on the grid. And I also totally agree with you guys. Not only is this a potential loss of points for Oscar Piastri, but also how important was this race distance for McLaren to put that data in the bank. Yeah, disaster for him.
Absolute disaster then for Oscar Piastri. It doesn't get any worse for him on his home Grand Prix as well. Thank you very much to Alex Brundle. Juan Pablo, we've now moved up the grid. We're next to Liam Lawson's car from Racing Bulls. Him and Arvid Lindblad, P8 and P9. They're looking quite impressive, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. They're clearly the best of the rest. You know what I mean? They've done a really good job. Both of them have done a really good job. You gotta say Lindblad all weekend has been solid. It is honestly, he's been solid through most of the championship, but he never looked that good as he's looking this weekend. I gotta say, he's been incredible this week.
Can you give us a little bit of insight? What is it like when you're a young rookie, you're only a teenager? Arvid Lindblad, 18 years old, and he's competing in Formula One for the first time. What's that moment like when you line up on the grid?
I think you're completely clueless until today. Because you know, when you do practice, you're in the garage and you're going through it and everything. And, you know, yes, it's a little bit of pressure of the race weekend. But now when you bring the car to the grid and you're gonna go and stand there with everybody and the national anthem and everything, is like, oh my God, this becomes real. This is time to go. The nervous goes up. You start overthinking the start. You start going, okay, I need to do this. But you wanna be so much more precise because it's the first race and you wanna do well. And that's where the mistakes come. He needs to stay calm. You don't need all the procedures, just stick to the procedures and you'll be fine.
Do you remember the moment?
Oh yeah, it was so stressful. That's what I'm telling you. I lived it. The first practice, the first lap here was stressful. The grid, and we didn't have to get out of the car and do any of that. We could stay with the team. When you get back in and everybody walks up the pit road, you know, of the grid, and you're by yourself, it's crazy.
I can see Liam Lawson, he's next to you. He's getting given some instructions on a notepad. What's going on here? What will he be being told?
Oh, for sure. They'll be talking about tires, what they think. They're talking about strategy, what they're thinking. Okay, you know, we're thinking we're going to do this. And, you know, on base how the track conditions changing, what about this? We did the start, you know, we used this mode in the start and we maybe got too much wheel spin. I think we need to reduce the initial power, and they look at all the stuff, and it's just fine tuning. Just as much information they can give him to get ready for that, because you get one try here, you get, you know, that false start of the formation lap, and it's a bit of a read.
Okay, well, we can hear Liam Lawson speaking to Lawrence earlier.
Well, Liam, epic qualifying yesterday. Racing Bull looks so quick around here. How exciting is it to have a car that's so complicit?
It's good. I think especially from where we probably expected to be in Bahrain. I never try and get my hopes up too much anyway, honestly. So, but it's great, honestly. It's obviously we've had a strong car all weekend. It's been consistent. Today's really important. Obviously, we all now test the reliability side of things. But to have a quick car in quality, to have two cars in Q3, it's awesome.
How easy was it to kind of get on top of these new cars? Because it feels like you've kind of built a rhythm with this Racing Bull quite quickly, and then you've come to a new circuit, and it looked like you got up to speed pretty quickly too.
Yeah, it's very, very positive. It's very, very hard here because I think probably one of the hardest tracks on energy, and for us, weekend one, we're trying to learn these cars. It's pretty challenging, but for us, you know, the guys have been working really, really hard to prepare for this. So it's just rewarding. Obviously, half the job's done. Obviously, today's very, very important, but even to show that speed is rewarding to all the guys and girls for all the work.
So to try and get the second part of the job done then, what's the kind of reading in the engineering meetings? What you got to do to try and stay in the top 10?
We basically have to drive quickly, stay out of trouble. Obviously, lap one, the starts have been really tricky in these cars, so I'm sure it's going to be quite chaotic to start here today. But surviving that and then seeing what kind of long run pace we have is going to be key.
So, well, best of luck today, Liam. All the best. Thank you.
Well, we've just been running up the grid here. It is absolutely rammed. We're building up for the Australian Grand Prix, the opener of 2026. Ariana Bravo earlier caught up with some of the drivers.
Good day, everybody. I don't really have a good Australian accent, but but I love being out here, and we've got such a great crowd. So I really hope. I mean, it's exciting. It's the first race, best place for us to have the first race as well. So keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Looking forward to the race. I mean, racing in front of this amazing crowd is unbelievable. So yeah, really looking forward. Car pace is good. Obviously, yesterday was a bit more stressful, but yeah, still on the front row, so looking forward to it.
Honestly, I think when Mercedes in their optimal window of the engine for the start, I don't expect big differences, but for sure we are maybe a little bit more robust. But I don't want to speak too soon. Let's see in some time to see how we get off that grid. But yeah, the Mercedes seems to be quite a step ahead. I just hope we can make their life difficult in the first few laps.
I think Ferrari can start anywhere in the top 10 and they'll probably be leading by turn 1, so we need to keep our eyes out for them. They're a rocket off the line, but we don't know. I'm sure Kimi's going to be fast. Hadjar did a great job for Ferraris, Oscar as well, so
Okay, here we go then. The countdown is on. We are about to get started with the Australian Grand Prix, but you cannot get going without a grid walk. Over to you, Jolyon Palmer. Take us away and enjoy it.
Here we go then, getting ready for the Australian Grand Prix. Some of the drivers just clearing to go for a comfort break before you see Lance Stroll in the car today, having had a whole day out yesterday. Aston Martin in a world of trouble. Reliability is a major concern. We don't know how far they're going to go in the race, but at least he's on the grid, even if he is now personally heading off the grid. He has got 5 Grand Prix winning drivers just ahead of him. It was an absolutely loaded bunch of drivers that went out in Q1. It starts with Carlos Sainz here in the Williams. Had a really horrible weekend as well. Williams struggling quite a lot so far this weekend. But the big name out in Q1 is Max Verstappen. Again, just trotted off down the back of the grid to take a bit of time to himself, because he's got a big day coming up, Max. How much progress can he make? How much can he overtake? And it's going to be a lot about recharging the battery and then having that deployment on some of these long straights. Newcomers Cadillac are not at the back of the grid then. First up, we have Valtteri Bottas here, and he is joined with Sergio Perez, race-winning drivers back on the grid with Cadillac. I want to have a very quick word with Graham Loudon. Back on the grid for the drivers, back on the grid for Graham Loudon. How are you doing? How are you feeling here?
Yeah, it's good to be back, and you know, it's just massive amount of work from everybody in the team. You know, just have to say huge thanks to all my teammates and also everyone who supports them. You know, take this opportunity to say thanks to all the family and friends of everyone in the team. It's a massive effort. It's the greatest team sport in the world. It's pretty difficult to get into it, and now we're here.
All right, well done. I've got a dash, but good luck getting the cars to the finish. So, Graham Loudon and Cadillac just trying to learn and pick up some more data. Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin absolutely in the same camp here. Almost surprised everyone by lofting that car up into Q2. Fernando driving the wheels off it, but they are so far down on mileage that Fernando's going to have his work cut out. I guarantee he'll get spicy at the start, though. He loves to just get in amongst it, and he'll be doing that with basically quicker cars around here, and certainly more reliable cars. So we've got Franco Colapinto, a little bit of drift of Pierre Gasly, and in between the two Alpines, we have Alex Albon as well. Williams struggling. Mercedes power units in the back of the Alpine and the Williams, but unlike Mercedes, they're nowhere near getting the most out of it. So a lot of work to do, and Alpine particularly pretty disappointed with how things are going this weekend after what was looking like a very promising run in pre-season testing. So that's Gasly's car. We had Ferrari a little bit further down the order as well. Audi, the next up in our Noah's Ark 2x2 on either side of the top 10 here. 11th, Nico Hülkenberg, out-qualified for the second time in a row in Melbourne by Gabriel Bortoleto, who had a standout day until he had a power unit issue in Q3. To be honest, it probably wouldn't have caused Bortoleto much grief, because I think getting to the top 10 was about as good as he could have possibly hoped for anyway. New car, new power unit, very impressive, and they'll be hunting for some points. Up into the top 10 then. What a weekend. Arvid Lindblad, the rookie driver, will be feeling the nerves, he'll be feeling the heat. Remember this time last year, Isaac Hadjar was in this car, and then he was in that wall over there on the formation lap. But he's got a great chance, especially with no Oscar Piastri today. That's another place gain. He's effectively starting in P8 on debut. Really, really impressive. His teammate Liam Lawson just picked him at the end. No new tyres for Racing Bulls in qualifying, but nonetheless a fantastic achievement for the two to get through. They've saved that for the race, and they're going to have a good chance. Alan Permain here. Hello, I just want to get a quick word on Arvid Lindblad, really. What a performance he's done.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you'd barely know he was 18. He's got a very mature head on his shoulders.
How does the race look from your perspective today?
A bit easier without Oscar. A shame for him, of course, but no, it's, well, I'm not going to give too much away, Julian, as you know, but we got a good plan. We think we got good pace from our Friday long runs, so hopefully first lap is not too sketchy, and as it can be here with turn one, and it's a simple, boring race. That's what I'm hoping for.
All right, best of luck there. We're not hoping for the same. So, Racing Bulls in a great position, though. Lewis Hamilton disappointed, but here we've got a run of drivers that basically thought they should have been third on the grid after yesterday. Hamilton starts in 7th. His compatriot Lando Norris, the reigning champion, starts in 6th. And is obviously going to be the only McLaren on the grid now. Massive disappointment for them. There is a clear space, so the drivers will not shuffle up and filter into Oscar Piastri's empty 5th grid spot here. Gutting for McLaren. They're going to miss out on a load of learning with that as well. But that's just how it goes. New regulations, little bit of glitches on maybe battery deployment, on something looked very, very strange from Oscar's point of view. Charles Leclerc, it's been pointed out pretty well here that their car is very, very good off the line. Alex Jakes at green light spotted it as well, launching through. And all of the drivers ahead are very, very wary that Leclerc has a good chance to rattle through and maybe take a surprise lead down towards turn 1. Can anyone cut him off? It's going to be the task for those ahead. Isaac Hadjar, absolutely fantastic performance from him, up in the top 3 with a good shot to the podium. I'm going to see if I can grab one quick word with Laurent Mekies. Quick word, Laurent. First of all, you're not the 4th quickest car. Second of all, can Isaac get a podium?
Yeah, I don't know if we are not the 4th quickest cars, but for sure, Isaac and the team did a mega job yesterday to try to be just ahead by a few thousand of both McLaren and both Ferrari. It's very difficult to see how it's going to unpan, but you know, we will fight. We'll try to take the learning, even more important, and then for sure we'll fight.
Great, good luck with it. Front row, guys, you've got Kimi Antonelli in 2nd, you've got George Russell on pole. Surely this is heading to a shootout between the two Mercedes. The start will be so important, but first of all, let's hear the Australian national anthem.
till lights out. It is absolutely bustling with people. It is so incredibly busy. We're standing by Lando Norris's car. We're about to speak to Zak Brown. What will be happening inside McLaren now? What will Zak Brown be thinking?
Well, first of all, they need to understand what happened. I think that'll be a number one thing. We can ask him.
We can ask the man himself. Zak, thank you very much for joining us. We've got to start with Oscar Piastri. What happened?
We're not sure yet. We've not seen anything on the data, and he hopped out of the car pretty quickly, so he's not giving us any feedback. So we'll do a little deep dive after the race, but right now we got to focus on the race at hand.
He must be absolutely devastated. Have you managed to speak to him yet?
No, not yet.
What about the pace? Are you happy where you started the year? Were you expecting more, or were you?
I'm not happy with what the gap is to Mercedes, but I don't think anyone else is. They've done a good job. They've done a great job. Happy where we are in relation to Ferrari and Red Bull. I think we're all very close, but catching Mercedes, I think today's not realistic for any of us. But let's see.
Okay.
What can you do to close that gap to Mercedes over the next few months?
Go faster.
Development.
How's that?
When do you have an upgrade coming already?
Yeah. But so does everyone else, right?
Yeah.
So it's a question of out-developing the
And how big it
competition,
is.
because as you know, no one's sitting still. But no, I got a lot of confidence in our racing team. I think we've shown we know how to develop a race car. So let's see where we are at the end of today and go from there.
Good luck.
Thank
Zak,
you.
thank you very much. Good luck. We'll let you go. Thank you very much. Okay, well, we can now say and hear from Max Verstappen, who had a bit of a nightmare in quali yesterday. He starts 20th, and he's been speaking to Lawrence Barretto.
Hey Max, just a quick one. Uncharacteristic starting spot for today, but a lot of opportunity. You've just had a few laps around to the grid. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, of course I had the crash of Oscar in front of me, so then in those two corners you had to drive really slow, and in the end that I think no one really got their tires up to temperature, so it was quite slippery out there.
In terms of the car that you've got today, it's racing to the unknown really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think for everyone it's really unknown and we don't really know what to expect.
Well, have fun out there, thanks.
Okay, so that's Max Verstappen. What damage do you think he can do from the back one, Pablo?
This is going to be really interesting. We're going to see how good the cars can pass. How, you know what I mean? The push to pass, the overtake button, how good is, how efficient it is, and how good it is. So we'll see.
We just walked past Isaac Hadjar's car. He's in P3. He's been so incredibly impressive, hasn't he? What do you think he can do today?
He's very good in the races. He's very solid. He's very mature. I think we have to wait and see. We need to see how good the starts are. The question is, between him and Lewis, anybody can be in the podium. You would assume the two Mercedes are going to be in the podium if nothing happens, but that fight for the third place is going to be incredible to watch.
What I think so impressive now for Red Bull is the fact that they've never had somebody there in that second car that when Max makes a mistake, they can pick it up. They did with Isaac Hadjar, right?
He did, and he's very good. So we'll see. I mean, I'm really excited. He's very good in the races. He's very mature. He understands how to manage the tires, and he's been very close to Max. You gotta say, for his first race at Red Bull, he's been only 1 or 2 tenths off in practice, so it looks really solid.
Well, we've moved up to the top of the grid. The Mercedes are around us. The Mercedes team are just looking so comfortable and confident, aren't they?
Look at them. It's just calm and execution. That's what they're always been about. And because they've won so much, they know what they need to do. They're not excited. They're just business as usual. And when you can deliver, and for the drivers, when the drivers feel, you look at Kimi, and Kimi's just calm. It's just everybody around Kimi's calm. You know, we're gonna get in, we're gonna drive, we're gonna do the race, and that's it. When it's a younger team or they haven't run there, everybody, you can feel the excitement of the mechanics and sometimes just extra pressure. Here is just business as usual.
We are hoping to speak to Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff at any moment now. I'm just trying to scan for him. But how do you think George Russell will be feeling? We can see him over there. He's just getting ready to get into the car, clearly getting himself into the zone.
Yeah, he's been very calm. He's been very calm. And I think, as we spoke earlier, if he can get the start and lead into turn 1, I think he will open a gap, and it's going to be just a nice and relaxed drive. Kimi needs to do whatever he can to prevent that.
What's it like being a driver then, when you're lining up in the grid? There's so much noise, there's people absolutely everywhere. What is going through your mind?
You're just so focused on what you need to do. You don't, you kind of zone out, and you just need to, it's kind of weird. I never like getting in the car too early because it just gives you a lot of time to sit down and think about things, and you don't want to think about anything. You just want to be completely zoned out. You know what I mean? Just get in the car, execute, go. You know, for Kimi, it's going to be a clean run into turn one, and you're just thinking you're going to be looking at that light and say, come on, come on, come on, and get that reaction.
Not going to lie, can't hear a word you said. But do you remember what it felt like? Do you miss that feeling?
No. No, I once you get going, it's fine. The parade lap is really stressful because you don't want to make any mistakes. You don't want to be the odd guy out that screw up coming to the grid, and I've done that as well, and I've done that here.
Well, there's that man. There is George Russell. He starts on pole position. He's got his helmet on. He is ready to go. Juan Pablo, what is your prediction today?
I think it's a Mercedes 1-2 for sure. I think P3 is up for grabs, and it could be a Ferrari. For me, P3 would be a Ferrari today.
Would you back Kimi to be able to cause some problems for his teammate, George?
If he can't in the first lap, I see it really difficult. Again, I don't think Mercedes would allow it too much. They allow clean racing, but I think from what we saw in qualifying, George can manage the energy a little better, and he's a little more mature, so I think that plays.
What do you think Kimi will have to do, though?
Oh, he's got to go for broke. I mean, if he wants to think long-term, you don't want to let George build that confidence. When he builds that confidence, he's going to be in trouble.
You talk about Isaac Hadjar in third. You feel like that's where maybe the competition is going to happen. Who do you think is going to cause him issues?
Oh, the Ferrari starts. I think everybody, if the Ferrari gets the starts that we saw in testing, everybody's in trouble right now. So the big question is, what are you doing to turn one? Do you go aggressive? Do you go conservative? Everybody talks about lockups. We haven't seen a lot, but we're going to be on cold tires going into turn one, full deployment, you know, completely crazy. You need to deliver. And you're going to have half of the grid going, oh, I don't want to be too aggressive, and half of the grid is, I'm going to win the championship today.
And what do you think is going to be going through the drivers' minds very quickly? We've got new regulations. Is it going to be more stressful than usual?
It is very stressful because everybody's thinking about, you know, when you recover that energy, am I going to lock up the rear tires? And somebody's going to have full confidence and is going to go a lot deeper and stop the car, and somebody is going to be in trouble.
All right, perfect. Juan Pablo, thank you very much. Thank you to Jolyon Palmer, Ruth Buscombe as well. Let's get going, guys. Let's get this season underway properly in the Melbourne sun. Who is going to be our first winner in this new era of Formula One? Everybody, sit back and enjoy this.
We are minutes away from lights out for the first time in 2026. It is time to take the sandbags out. Questions raised in testing soon to be answered. At the Albert Park Street Circuit, where dreams have come true, rookies have made their mark. You've got to make the right call at the right time.
We timed our pit stop pretty much perfect. It was the right time.
Stay out of trouble. Hold your nerve. And keep your focus. Yes, the grid is set, but now it's time to step into the spotlight when the flag falls. You have to get it right another 58 times. This is the 2026 Australian Grand Prix. See new teams, new engines, new cars, new fuel and new tyres. But on the grid, the racing challenge remains unaltered. The ambition for all is to call themselves the champion. So we take advanced technology and place at its centre an elite athlete. Then we send them across the world to prove their brilliance. This is the journey to crown the best driver and team on Earth, and it starts now. Whether you have seen every season or this is your first, good afternoon and welcome to Formula One in 2026. Our first round at Albert Park, the 14-turn racetrack that begins our season. On the C5, the C4 and the C3 tyres, you all know them as the soft, the medium and the hard. Hello everyone, we're live on Apple TV for race day in Australia as we meet at the start of a great sporting story. The beginning of a season is always special. Here's the starting grid for the opening Grand Prix of the year. Lance Stroll didn't get a chance to compete, neither did Carlos Sainz. They are at the back, but they are not last. We'll explain why in a few moments. Very uncharacteristic moment for Max Verstappen. Into the wall and out, he's P20, Valtteri Bottas is in 19th, and Sergio Perez is the lead Cadillac on the grid for their first Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso in the troubled Aston Martin is P17. Franco Colapinto just made it through to Q2. He's next to Alex Albon on the grid. Pierre Gasly next to his countryman Esteban Ocon. They are 13th and 14th. Oliver Behrman is the driver in 12th. He is next to Nico Hülkenberg, who has been pushed to the pits. Gabriel Bortoleto, great effort to get to Q3. What a debut for Arvid Lindblad, been the lead racing bull all the way through the season until we got to qualifying, and then it was Liam Lawson who picked him. Lewis Hamilton is 7th in his 20th season in Formula One. Lando Norris is in 6th. There will be a gap where we would have had home favourite Oscar Piastri, but Piastri finds himself in the wall on the reconnaissance lap. Charles Leclerc is 4th, best ever result in Formula One qualifying for Isaac Hadjar, who is P3. And at the front, eventually, Kimi Antonelli, what an eventful day he had on the way to P2, but he got there. And the driver to beat in Formula One is George Russell. He is the championship favourite. Yesterday, he showed us why with his 8th career pole position, and it was a handsome margin as well. The crowd, well, their spirits have recovered, but they've had an almighty shock. The Oscar Piastri fans can't believe that he's not on the grid. We have one in the pit lane, we have one out of the race, and I've got a couple of experts next to me. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you up to the commentary box on what we are expecting to be a day of drama. David Coulthard, 13-time Grand Prix winner, and Jolyon Palmer, our analyst, to read you through the play-by-play of this race, are alongside. Gentlemen, what on earth is about to unfold in front of us?
Well, what we've just experienced, the uncertainty of these new regulations, the driver being caught out. We saw it already in qualifying with Max Verstappen, the one that you would always put your money on to catch a car, losing it. Oscar Piastri, he would seemingly just be feeling the car on the way to the grid, and he bins it. So what more lies?
Jolyon, we've seen Hülkenberg, your old teammate, he's in the pit lane. We could get a little bit of old school unreliability today.
It's got that feel. We haven't even spoken about Aston Martin, who've been struggling. We don't know how far they'll get into the race. It's got the feel where anyone can score points. We don't know who will win the race, even if Mercedes are out front in terms of one-lap pace. What is going to unfold? How are the starts going to be? There's so many different things that still go into winning a motor race, and I don't think anyone knows how this is going to play out, really.
We're grateful for your company as we begin the season, and we are not too far away from beginning the formation lap. Well, George Russell off the line, and he finds himself with Kimi Antonelli alongside. Medium tyres for the Mercedes pair at the front of the field. Isaac Hadjar in 3rd, that was his best in Formula One. There's not too much between the one-stop strategy or the two-stop strategy. It's going to give teams variation. The first challenge becomes, can you get the car off the line? It looked like an Alpine was slow away there. If they've stalled and the last car has passed them, you would be pushed to the pit lane. We're underway for the formation lap for Formula One in 2026.
Yeah, everyone wants as much practice of the starts as you could possibly get with these new cars. So I think a few of them were letting the cars ahead go and then trying to do a really as close to practice launch as you could possibly get. Hamilton was another one in what is supposed to be a rocket ship Ferrari off the line.
Yeah, well, that's what they've teased us with in pre-season testing. That's what he'll be hoping for as we get the run down to a first corner, which is not without incident. It may be seen as a fairly straightforward short apex right-hander, but we've seen cars being launched. We've seen multiple incidents there over the years. This feels like today, if you're mid-grid or further back, just be really careful. Get through that first corner because the attrition will come later.
I'm getting flashbacks to last year when we lost one on the formation lap and we were saying exactly the same thing, but that was with stable regs and a very, very wet day. Now it's beautiful conditions, but no one knows what these cars are going to do. Full tank of fuel into turn one, difficult braking zones. How is it going to play out?
What's interesting, if we just pick up, now Russell brings the field down to a pace to allow them to bunch up as he comes out of 11 into 12. But he was on a hard outlap. He really wanted to feel the car. He wanted to know, right, where can I lean on it? Because that will replicate what the first lap of the Grand Prix is. Maybe learning from what we saw with Oscar, that was a quicker outlap than normal.
Battery deployment and harvesting is going to be so important with this new regulation, this new generation of car. You have to make sure you have that battery topped up when you're wheel to wheel, and not more so than the start of the race. So it's going to be critical that everyone does that, backs up, charges the battery as best as possible, and then all focus to the start and the lights.
Nervy moments for the McLaren team, the reigning constructor champions, and you're on board with the reigning driver champion, Lando Norris, car number one, the sole remaining McLaren in the Grand Prix. That is Laurent Mekies, the CEO and team principal of Red Bull Racing. Isaac Hadjar has never been as far up on the grid. Watch out for the Scarlet Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, because the Ferrari starts have been astonishing every single time they've practiced it. And we have Hulkenberg in the pit lane, uncertain to join the Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri in the wall. He is out before the lights have even extinguished. Aston Martin have been going through the mill. They are watching on. Cars forming into position. When the last car is in place, we'll get a 5-second pause, and then it will be time to look to the lights. That is the agreed procedure. Here we go. So much talk, it's time for some action. Our journey around the world to crown a champion is about to begin. Formula One in 2026 begins when the 5 red lights go out. The new season is underway. They crawl off the line, and Hadjar's going to have an unbelievable chance to go from third to first, but he didn't get a good launch, and Charles Leclerc's to the inside. He's done it! What a start for the Ferraris! Charles Leclerc goes through. He climbs 3 positions and takes the lead from 4th on the grid. Charles Leclerc, George Russell, then Isaac Hadjar are your top 3. There was so much wheel spin for those on the front row. Kimi Antonelli is already down, and what an absolutely superb getaway for Arvid Lindblad, who's into 4th. Charles Leclerc, then George Russell, Hadjar, Lindblad, Hamilton, your top 5.
They teased it in winter testing, they delivered it here in Bahrain, and he has bolted. He's absolutely bolted away at the front here, and this now is not on the script for Mercedes.
Leclerc's initial getaway wasn't actually as outstanding as we expected. Hamilton was almost coming through for the lead as well.
Early battling, you've got Pierre Gasly putting the pressure on Esteban Ocon. These two started together. Been a really horror around the outside. That is very, very close there between the two Red Bull stable drivers. Hamilton's got a good launch off that corner, about to go wheel to wheel. Are we about to go 3 wide? Lindblad finds himself getting through. Lindblad to 3rd, Hamilton to 4th, and Hadjar down to 5th.
Unbelievable, Arvid Lindblad.
Hamilton then gets up to 3rd. Frenetic opening lap in Albert Park.
Yeah, well, if anyone doesn't know his name, they do now. He went wheel to wheel, toe to toe with the sister team, but it's the big sister, and absolutely brilliant wheel to wheel racing, but advantage Ferrari on that start.
Can he come back immediately? Yes, he does. Hadjar gets back immediately. So where you deploy the power is everything. It's pass and repass. On the opening lap of the season, Charles Leclerc leads for Ferrari. Then it's George Russell for Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton picking his way past Hadjar, then Lindblad, a great getaway. You can see it was a great lap for one of the Racing Bulls and Arvid Lindblad. A terrible getaway for Liam Lawson, who's plunged down through the field, down 10.
Russell putting pressure on Leclerc straight away. This will be interesting coming out of turn 6. Antonelli, by the way, is 7th. He lost out so much on that first lap. Here comes Russell, though.
George Russell would not have expected the Ferrari to be that good off the line, from 4th on the grid to the lead, but he's doing something about it. That Mercedes is a rocket ship. Charles Leclerc will try and hang on to it. He's a former winner around here in the past. Now let's go bottom left with Max Verstappen. He's passing Valtteri Bottas in the Cadillac, and he takes the position out front. George Russell sweeps by, and the Mercedes man reclaims the lead on lap 2.
Yeah, well, this is what we're going to start to see in this new form of Grand Prix racing. When do you want to save and when do you want to deploy the overtake? Now, what's quite clear is George doesn't want to run in dirty air. He's prepared to use that battery early.
Overtake is enabled. Single detection point gives the driver more power automatically. Can Charles Leclerc use it as he goes down? We go through the active aero zone, the front wing element, the rear wing element opening together, and Leclerc was unable to come back. Antonelli, who started from the front row, drops himself down to 7th with a poor getaway off the line. Got to say, from the practice starts earlier on, the Mercedes looked in the middle. They were very much at the bottom end of things as we had different phases of the start. Start replays are going to be unbelievable. Antonelli putting pressure on the world champion, left-hand side of your screen.
Yeah, the start, of course, is completely down to the driver reaction and the internal combustion engine until they get some momentum, some distance away from the line.
How much battery has Leclerc got now to try and get back towards Russell? How much did Russell have to use to take the lead on the last lap? There's a big closing speed coming.
If you see the flashing lights of the car ahead, it means it's slowing down, and Charles Leclerc is going to try and go all the way around the outside to retake the lead of the Australian Grand Prix.
There was a moment when I was watching that, and it was like, is he not? Is he going? And as he did, oh, this is what we're going to have. Cat and mouse, peloton-style racing further down the field.
Antonelli gets Norris. Norris won't fight that. You can't fight too hard at this stage of the race. It would deplete the battery. You'd be falling back into the clutches of the driver behind.
Leclerc's doing Hamilton a favour as well, because Lewis is starting to get back towards these two who are squabbling. Now it's going to be George that's got the chance, with the extra battery deployment available being within that 1 second, the new regulation. It's not like DRS, but it's a similar thing now. Without opening the rear wing, it's all done on battery, and there we go, Lewis is right in the mix.
The Mercedes is unbelievable when it can run its own pace in clear air. Enter a Ferrari-sized problem.
Yeah, he is the meat in that Ferrari sandwich. And, well, a recharged Lewis Hamilton for this season. Disappointed with not being able to get full deployment in qualifying, slightly out of position, but no such sign of that as this Grand Prix has started.
Russell will get the same chance has been happening on the last couple of laps at this point on the circuit, out of turn 6. This is the area of maximum deployment. It's such a big run as the active aero kicks in, the rear and the front wings open, and Russell will get a chance to close in.
So Russell trying to claim it back. Remember, the driver's getting used to this. This is not what they have had at any stage of their career. They're having to understand when to use the battery and when to just run in the slipstream. The top 3 are covered by 1.5 seconds. Russell can't come back into turn 11. Max Verstappen can go all the way around the outside of turn 9 and take P13.
Yeah, more moves coming further back. I'll tell you what, Leclerc hammered it into the fast corners there. Russell was right with him, but there is still dirty air with this new generation of Formula 1 car. Hopefully it's a little bit less than we've seen, but Charles Leclerc gave it full beans through the high speed, and he managed to keep George behind for another lap.
Yeah, well, this is heartwarming for the Tifosi, who had a winless season last year. Long way to go as we see Antonelli getting a pass done now as well on Lindblad. So that underlying pace of the Mercedes allowing him to come back. And I haven't seen that replay of the starters yet, but he really bogged down off the line, and that's where he was swamped into the first corner.
Nice problem to have when you've got lots of overtaking on the racetrack. That's exactly what we've got at the moment. Max Verstappen gets past Fernando Alonso, driver who is a 4-time world champion, is on the hard tyre. He's making light work of the middle pack.
I love that Aston Martin put Fernando on a softer start as well from the back. Go and have fun and start racing with the guys around you. Made a bit of progress early on.
2 retirements from the Australian Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri on the reconnaissance lap, finding the barrier on the exit of turn 4. Nico Hülkenberg was pushed to the pit lane and did not take the lights. We told you that was a possibility. Charles Leclerc, 0.6 of a second as the teams work out how on earth to run these cars with such a big change of chassis and power unit. Let's go back to the start.
Yeah, so let's just keep an eye on Antonelli right of screen. It just doesn't get that initial launch, and then that allows Charles Leclerc picks up a little bit of a slipstream from George, and he just threads the needle through between those two cars. And happy days as he comes out of turn 2.
Yeah, I think the reason he didn't initially launch so quickly was actually because Antonelli was so slow. He had to put some steering in to get round the Mercedes.
And there is Arvid Lindblad in the white and blue Racing Bulls car, going around Lando Norris, around Lewis Hamilton, and getting up eventually past the driver who was promoted to the senior team, Isaac Hadjar.
Yeah, sorry, Alex, talking over you there as we go on board with Charles Leclerc. So just listen. That was wheel spin, actually, for Antonelli. I thought it bogged down.
This is brave then into the first corner, because he didn't do it all on the getaway. He still had to commit on the brakes, and through he went, perfectly executed.
Russell sacrificed some of his second phase of the start to cover off Hadjar, and Leclerc took advantage of it. This is Arvid Lindblad, currently running P6. He started P9.
So some questioned whether he had the results in F2 to justify the move up. I think the underlying racing ability is something that's always been clear. And, well, what a showcase moment for him to handle the pressure of that.
In the background, Kimi Antonelli is up to 4th. George Russell is up to the lead. Not quite. He's putting all of the pressure on. Charles Leclerc prepared to be brave. He doesn't care how quick the Mercedes is. He's going to cling on to the lead with his fingertips for as long as possible.
Well, he has a new bride in the paddock to impress, so he cannot give up that lead of this Grand Prix, having recently got married in Monte Carlo. But that was feisty from George. It's like, right, okay, I've kind of weighed up the situation and now want clean air.
Yeah, I think Charles actually defended that perfectly, squeezed him really aggressively, but left that car's width on the inside, right on the white line. It's then pretty bold to send it in on the brakes there when you're so tight to the inside. It's a little bit too far back in towards turn 3. I think Russell held back for a couple of laps.
That was very dangerous by Leclerc, especially what we spoke about at briefing.
The briefing is the driver's briefing. It's a meeting with everyone, with the FIA and the race director before the lights go up.
So, cars have changed, the pecking order's changed, George Russell has not changed.
Yeah, please, sir, please, sir. Yeah, look, I don't think that was, there was no sign of late move or multiple moves. I think it was just a sign of, I see you coming, I'm covering off that inside line. But I understand what George is doing, but he's just got to now work on another way past.
These Mercedes are quick. The Ferraris will know they have to be aggressive to hold George back. We saw yesterday how quick he is when he gets clear air. On the other hand, Antonelli's not flying up to the back of Hamilton just yet either. He was a little bit quicker, did his personal best on the last lap, actually 7/10 quicker than the guys ahead, but he's biding his time to get back towards the top 3. The top 2 have just about stretched away from Hamilton, who's watching on still.
So what the teams don't know until now, even though they've done pre-season testing, is how does the car perform in race trim, in dirty air, with tailwinds as we've got into turn 1 on this day in history. So there'll be a process of finding. Here's the extra power from Russell.
This time, he inches ahead, side by side. How much can Leclerc fight it? Not enough to hang on to it. George Russell retakes the lead again, and he's got by on lap 8.
But how much of his battery has he had to use at turn 3 when we've got this next run coming up? So George has thought, okay, Charles knows what he's doing, covering off the big stops. I'm going to have to use the juice somewhere else. Is he going to pay the price for that here?
Well, keep an eye on that rear wing. That red light flashing tells us that he's no longer in full deployment, and that allows Charles Leclerc to take the dirty line all the way around. So it is this wonderful game of cat and mouse.
Ferrari back to P1. So he used the battery early. George Russell got track position, hoped it would be enough. It wasn't enough, and even though the Mercedes is phenomenal, he does not have track position. And I tell you what, Charles Leclerc is playing his cards wonderfully right now.
But I also, if you just look at the background, Lewis Hamilton, he's playing his cards. He's playing an observation card. He's like, okay, I'm feeling comfortable. You guys show me how you're going to race, and he's benching all that, or banking all that, excuse me, in his mind to be able to deploy it later.
New overtaking spot.
Russell locks up, doesn't need that, does make the corner, hangs on to it, and immediately back, pass, repass, and now a three-way battle for the lead. Charles Leclerc takes it back from Russell, and he's looking to the inside. Russell can't get by. for long enough. He can take track position, but he can't hold it. And now joining the battle, the 7-time champion of the world, Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, and has he flat-spotted slightly the tyre? That was a long enough lock-up, in my opinion, to be able to pick up a bit of vibration from that.
That was so hairy on both sides. Russell with the braking. Leclerc, I thought he was about to oversteer that into the barriers on the exit of 2. You could see how dusty it was as he swept back around the Mercedes. Here we go, the speed builds. Has anyone got something more they can offer? I don't think they do on this lap. Hamilton still playing a waiting game in 3rd position. Russell will be getting so frustrated here. He's tried at 1, he's tried at 3, he's tried at 9. I think he's done 11 already. He's passed him everywhere.
Yeah, there's other numbers available. I guess the only one that he possibly couldn't overtake would be the kink at, what is it, 6? I think at 5, excuse me.
That's the only odd number. He's got to try the evens next.
Well, Russell having to play the waiting game, but you can see what Charles Leclerc is doing because it's Leclerc, then Russell, then Hamilton, and it's turning into a 4-way fight out front. Charles Leclerc playing the defensive game really well. George Russell trying to get opportunistic, trying to deploy more of the power. This year, the combustion engine and the electric power about 50-50. Last time that you went racing with us, it was about 20% electrical battery power available to the drivers. And how they use it is defining what is clear from qualifying that the fastest car right now can't take the race lead. It's not simple. We still have pit stops to come. Update on the 4-time world champion, up to the points.
Up to the points, and with the hard tyre, which is a long game decision, high likelihood of safety car around here. So that suggests very much that they're in this for the long haul. They're going to take it late into the Grand Prix.
Brilliant thing for Verstappen here is he's within 15 seconds of the race lead. So we've just seen Antonelli now clamber onto the back of Hamilton, who's onto the back of Russell. Antonelli on the last lap was 2 seconds quicker than the race leaders. They're all having this dogfight out front, and it's meaning that they're not escaping really from anyone. Hadjar's a bit further back. The rest of it is a big train, as you can see with Max on the left-hand side, who's going to pick off Pierre Gasly next. On a different strategy, he is in for a decent result when he does something on the pit stops.
Yeah, you see there Verstappen just slipping through on the inside. So yeah, looking at this and looking at sort of backing up of Hadjar into Lindblad, Verstappen has the potential based on that to get up into 5th place.
Could be more, could be more. We haven't even got into safety car chances and everything else.
That is true, but which one of the 2 Ferraris and the 2 Mercs is he going to challenge?
It's lap 11, and what a dramatic start to the season we have had. Charles Leclerc with the race lead from 4th on the grid. It was touted as possible, and he weaved his way to P1. And George Russell has reclaimed the lead a couple of times, every single time repassed by the driver from Monaco. And we have Hamilton in close proximity in 3rd, Antonelli in 4th, and it's Hadjar and Lindblad. Norris is trying to do something. The 2 Brits racing. Lindblad, 18 years of age, has now become the 4th youngest driver in Formula 1 history. And he took the start.
You know he's on a good day when we're on lap 11 and he's still keeping a world champion behind him. Unbelievable start.
Oh, problem for Hadjar. Problem for Isaac Hadjar, dropping down the order. The man who had his best ever day in Formula 1 qualifying yesterday is out of the Grand Prix on lap 11.
Yeah, well, we'll find out exactly soon, but it looks like engine.
Copy.
Come on! Air's broken. Everything.
We have become so used to bulletproof reliability in Formula 1 in recent times. That is out of the window, in are the new rules, and Red Bull have built their own power unit in conjunction with Ford. Lando Norris is called into the pits immediately. Will he be the only one? It doesn't look like it.
The top 4 went past just as the VSC was deployed, so they'll have to wait a lap, and Hadjar's parked that perfectly for the marshals to push it back in, and we'll have a short VSC. So as last year, you saved about 10 seconds by pitting under the virtual safety car. I'm sure it won't be the last one we get in the race with the attrition rate so far.
Yeah, others to go past: Lindblad, Verstappen, Behrman, Bortoletto.
Norris was getting frustrated as well behind Lindblad, so he will get a little bit of clear air. Lawson pits as well. He was right down towards the back, having made an opposite end of the spectrum start to his teammate.
So the virtual safety car thrown by race control
and it reduces the driver's speed. Everyone's circulating at reduced pace right now to allow the marshals to recover the Red Bull.
So if the leaders get round, will Mercedes try and do something different? Will they opt to pit? Will Ferrari try and cover them off? This is George looking at the back of Charles Leclerc. We're still under VSC. How quickly will that go? And if it stays for another 30 seconds, we're going to get the judgment call here.
Yeah, I don't feel that this is going to be the only virtual or actual safety car this afternoon. They're slow to come out and pick it up, so this is going to take a bit longer, which opens up that opportunity.
Yeah, and it's going to be a chance, potentially, for Mercedes to do something different to Ferrari and get their car into clear air.
Let's listen on board with Isaac Hadjar.
Yeah, he's lost drive at that point. He's gone into like a hydraulic failure, thrown it into neutral, and that would have been the description he gave from the cockpit. I've lost everything.
George Russell in, Kimi Antonelli in. They took the opportunity.
Ferrari stayed out. They've done exactly that. They're going to get their cars into a little bit of clear air here. Pitting onto the hard tyres. They've got out ahead of Lindblad with one, behind Lindblad with the other.
Yeah, Russell in third, Lindblad in fourth, Antonelli now P5, Verstappen is sixth, and he has now climbed 14 places in the Grand Prix, and that has worked out nicely for Mercedes, who needed something to give them a chance to get past Ferrari.
Yeah, but what's going to be interesting now, Mercedes are in their own race with fresh tyres. They're not doing the cat and mouse with Ferrari. They're going to have the advantage of fresher tyres. We're going to get a good opportunity to see what is their actual race pace.
And Ferraris as well.
At least one of us should have come in.
Bang on. I'm amazed that Ferrari didn't split the strategies there to cover off Mercedes either way. With Leclerc, they wouldn't have known what Mercedes were definitely going to do, as the marshals now recover the Hadjar car, so the safety car should be over soon. But why are they not splitting?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Why, if Lewis feels so strongly about it, why did he not say, I'm in the pit lane? They can react and service him, so it's easy to blame, but, you know, you're all part of the process.
You are. It's partly his job, but there's someone that is fully their job on the pit wall, and you've got to try and trust that they can do the right job. And maybe it will pan out that way. There's a long way to go in this race, but I think Ferrari right now need another safety car to make a stop later on. Without that, Mercedes are now in a bit of control, especially with Russell, who doesn't need to overtake anyone else.
So, who is this going to be for? Will it be one? Will it be both?
They
go
past.
through
both
again.
gone past.
Yeah, I don't think they could pit then.
The car was being recovered. We saw just in the back of camera shot earlier, Hadjar's car was being pushed into that gap. So I would expect this virtual safety car to be ending soon.
And it is ending right now. So Ferrari could have taken that opportunity, could have lost the track position, but not had to hope for a safety car later in the race. Remember, if you pit under the virtual safety car, you get a benefit of about 10 seconds for your overall race pace. With green flag racing once again at Albert Park.
Yeah, I think they could have pitted Leclerc and actually covered off Russell, because they're all circulating at the same pace. So once again, they've chosen not to. Maybe wary just of that VSC ending and then being caught completely out there. So it's free airtime.
So as it stands, and of course this is still early in the race, the winners from that round, it's got to be Verstappen as the main one, Behrman and Bortoletto, of course, but they don't have those fresh tyres like the Ferraris out front.
Max Verstappen, 14 places up from where he started in the Grand Prix. P20 after a Q1 exit, a strange moment when the rear tyres lopped, spun him off the road through the gravel and into the wall at turn 1.
And that is now Kimi Antonelli just ahead. So he's back in play here with the roll of the dice on the strategy. Mercedes have got fresher tyres. We're going to get another retirement. That's not a surprising one there for Alonso.
Now, hopefully that means stop the car in the pits rather than stop the... Yes, there we go, the answer to that. Otherwise, that could have pulled another safety.
Our fourth retirement of the Australian Grand Prix is Fernando Alonso, who finds himself back to the garage. And they were saying they would not go beyond 25 laps, and on lap 15 they are out. The Honda power unit providing massive vibrations, and they are short on batteries as well. That team, so they knew they weren't getting to the end, but 15 laps of data to pour over. This is on board with Lando Norris, and getting past as we got back up to speed. So Norris now on the hard tyre, and he made his way by. So Norris now finds himself past Esteban Ocon, and that is for P9. So what can Antonelli do relative to Max Verstappen? We'll keep you updated on the gap to the leader as well for George Russell. Does Russell now hammer into the advantage? Now he's got that clear air that he's been denied for the majority of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, well, just to answer that, he's gone fastest of all by half a second in the first sector.
So that's a yes?
Yeah, that's a yes. Yeah, I'll give you the short answer. Yes.
And that's a 10-second behind.
How are they only 10 seconds?
So far we are on plan. We are focusing on plan A, plan A.
Okay, so if Ferrari pit now, they will come out well behind the Mercedes, but the plan, in theory, for this race is a one-stop. The degradation is pretty low. Mercedes have got a long way to go on the hard tyres.
Let's go on board with Kimi Antonelli, the 19-year-old from Italy in his second season of Formula One, and easy as you like. On the way up to P4, he gets past Arvid Lindblad.
For the second time this race, Antonelli clears the Racing Bulls. Lindblad still in a fight with Norris and with Verstappen, really. He's not going to come back, is he?
Now, it's interesting as he pulled up alongside with that extra power, lifting off as he got alongside rather than continuing all the way, because you want to harvest as much as you can immediately in those braking or that lifting course phase of the entry.
So plan A confirmed for Charles Leclerc as well. Russell was a second quicker on the last lap than both Ferraris. He will eat into that gap quickly. Ferrari are going to have to hope that they're onto a two-stop now with that early stop.
Bottom left of your picture is Liam Lawson trying to go around the outside of Sergio Perez. Cadillac side by side with Racing Bulls, and Lawson has to use all of the AstroTurf and a bit more. Cadillac running P14 in their first ever Grand Prix.
I'm getting flashbacks to 2024 with those two still dueling it. This time Perez in a Cadillac. I didn't think they'd be fighting on track today, but he's having fun. Sergio Perez, Cadillac just happy to be competing, having started a brand new team for this year.
Yeah, racing drivers, long memories. And we certainly saw that on the apex of turn number 3. Okay, Max Verstappen would have been hoping to come through to about 8th position. That would have been the aim. Well, we've had Piastri out, we've had his teammate out, he's in 6th position. So the work that he expected potentially to be a whole Grand Prix worth completed already, and now he's chipping away at what will surely not be a difficult battle like we saw before with Arvid Lindblad, who, and you do hear this from the drivers, we heard from Ollie Behrman, who's running behind this pair. When he was fighting Max Verstappen, he was like, I can't believe I'm fighting Max Verstappen in his rookie season. First race, Arvid Lindblad's going to have that sensation.
He was out of shape coming out of turn 4 there. That looked like it was almost a Piastri moment on the way to the grid, the way that these cars, they are snappy on the exits. They have so much torque. The instant power as you put your right foot down is a lot. That's left him slightly down towards the clutches of Verstappen.
So overtake mode within 1 second of the car in front of you, no longer DRS like we've had for a decade in Formula One. Overtake mode, if you have the battery power, it will give you more of it and try and help the driver to get by. But you've got to balance that, and you can see under braking, the battery recharging, both of them still have it.
Yeah, but massively powerful. The amount of energy that's been pushed back into that battery in the braking phase is one of the real management tools of the season.
Yeah, if you didn't recharge the battery, you'd effectively go through the whole lot before you get to turn 3. That was how important it is to recharge. Now, overtake is available for Verstappen. He's within 1 second, and this should give him, well, it will give him a little bit more battery to use for longer on the straights. He'll have a higher top speed. We've seen that already with Russell chasing Leclerc. It'll happen all the way around the lap on the straights.
And that's not a button push, that's an automatic thing if you have the detection point, not multiple detection points like we've had in the past. It is just round the final corner of the racetrack.
He's waiting for turn 6 in towards turn 9, the Lakeside Drive sweep.
Old friends reunited, side by side. Lawson, Perez, trying to get by in the Racing Bulls, trying to go around the outside of the Cadillac, and no driver in Formula One is going to allow you to do that.
Well, look, I was questioning whether Checo would be a bit rusty, but he's not showing any lack of fight.
Well, it feels like
Bottas comes to a stop. We were watching Checo with the other Cadillac. Lawson did get by into turn 11, and then we cut to the Cadillac of Valtteri Bottas. The 10-time Grand Prix winner is out of the Grand Prix. And on lap 18, it's now Bottas, Alonso, Hadjar, Piastri and Hülkenberg who have retired. and the Ferraris are going past our commentary box.
Yeah, I think the virtual came out just as they'd gone past again, so that took away that early choice. Let's look at the others that can maybe take an opportunity from it.
This is what Ferrari were kind of waiting for. The reliability is very, very difficult with these new cars. Plenty of cars peeling in.
Oh my word, they're racing into the pit lane. Lindblad able to keep Verstappen behind. Verstappen looking for any advantage that he can get as he's called in to make his stop. Lindblad's first pit stop in Formula One. And Max Verstappen gets by for the moment. Let's see who wins the race to get back into the fast lane. They had to hold him. And Lindblad back ahead, keeping track position. Crucially, Verstappen out ahead of Oliver Behrman.
Yeah, well, that is the moment when the team really show their teamwork. In this digital world, it's one of the most analog moments. 20 people descending on the car to change those wheels and tyres.
That was experience versus a rookie on the way into the pits as well. I think Verstappen knowing exactly how hard you can push as you peel in, and Lindblad being a bit cautious there. Max having to just wait until they got to the pit limiter. Good stop though, and that's another big hurdle done for Arvid Lindblad. He's been jumped by Norris though. That's Norris now ahead of Lindblad. They both pitted, Norris at the earlier stop. If Leclerc stops, it'll be nip and tuck with Antonelli. Russell will inherit the race lead if the Ferrari stop. Hamilton will come out behind Antonelli. So they haven't got the gap, and they wouldn't have a massive offset in tyre life either. It'll be 6 laps. So that's the debate now for Ferrari. Is that enough of a window to go to the end, or do they wait for another VSC in a much nicer pit window, but they're not going to be able to pit anyway?
Pit entry is now being closed because they've got to recover the Cadillac from the inside. It's a temporary facility, this. There you go, that's why it's been closed. You cannot risk cars coming in that proximate to the marshals.
Yeah, but what they'll do is take it down into the support pit lane. So again, as we go on board, I don't think they're going to have much longer of the virtual safety car.
No, and if Ferrari were planning on pitting, that's a disaster because they missed the chance with the timing, and then they missed the chance with the closure of the pits.
Yeah, locked up for Valtteri.
Yeah, engine's still running, but it's like he lost hydraulic for the gearbox and it's just locked the rear axle.
Well, he absolutely adores Australia, and it's not been the easiest weekend for Cadillac, who've been doing a lot of learning in their first Grand Prix, but a lovely reception for the 10-time Grand Prix winner. He is out, he's not the only one. Green flag racing once again. Good anticipation for Max Verstappen, defending from Arvid Lindblad, and he stays ahead of the 4-time world champion.
Well, look, this kid is just, and apologies, that's disrespectful in a way, call him a kid. He's a kid relative to my age, but he is just showing his stripes, showing his fighting mettle, and not fazed at all by Max Verstappen.
Well, he is borderline, isn't he? 18 years old.
Yeah, 4th youngest all time in the history of Formula One. Championship began in 1950. And there is scrapping going on behind as well. And here we go with Max Verstappen. We're on board with him. This flat-out section closing in. Still has access to overtake mode if he needs it. Can he go around the outside? Great defense on the restart for Arvid Lindblad, but it's about to end. Sweeping by, taking the position. Max Verstappen back up to P6.
Having made the stop now and switched onto the medium tyres, which are a pretty handy set of tyres as well. It's a good compound. That's what the Ferraris are running consistently out front still. So now Verstappen can go hustling after Norris on his fresh tyres and get back towards that 5th place, which is the best of the rest at the moment.
My tyres are still okay. Do not box me the same time.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be stacked. So there's clear instruction. This is what I was saying earlier. You know, the team have strategy, of course they do, but you've got to be as the driver. You're the conductor of the orchestra, and he's made that quite clear. If they pull in Charles, that would have been a delayed radio message from the virtual safety car. It is interesting that we're now, 21 laps into this race, and it's only the Ferraris that haven't pitted. Absolutely committed to this one-stop strategy.
And there's a fight for supremacy as well, isn't there, within the teams? So vicious closing speed for Gasly.
Oh, he's going to make contact with Esteban Ocon. Gasly gets by. Ocon and Bortoleto were scrapping corner after corner. Bortoleto won that battle. And it's wheel banging on the way down to turn 3 as Gasly gets up to the points.
Yeah, well, it looks like the car is intact. And, well, they say rubbing is racing. Maybe not in Formula One terms, but it happens occasionally.
And lap 22 of 58, it's a Ferrari 1-2, but they need to make pit stops. Mercedes came in under a virtual safety car earlier on. And they are running 3 and 4. Lando Norris is 4.8 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen, who started on the hard tyre and switched to a medium. Glorious day for motor racing here at Albert Park, where the track temperature is 35 degrees and the air temperature is 24 as we get the first round of the season up and running. George Russell has the fastest lap of the Grand Prix to 1:22.6.
7/10 quicker than Leclerc on the last lap. That was Charles' best lap of the race, though, so his tyres are still in and working, as we heard from Lewis Hamilton as well. Lewis will soon have a job to do as well for the team. If he can hold George Russell back, as we saw Leclerc do earlier on in the race, then that's going to start using George's tyres a bit more. That's going to start overheating them, and if they're borderline a 1 or needing to pit again, it'll just buy Ferrari a little bit more time and some options with the pit stop phase, and they must still pit.
Yeah, what we're seeing here is very inconsistent lap times, depending on whether they are attacking, defending, and then this sort of switching corner for corner. So there's no question that we're seeing more variability in the lap times itself. It's not that how fast can you get from lights out to checkered flag. Well, still going to be that, but in terms of the wheel-to-wheel racing, we're seeing a lot of compromises.
Sergio Perez blending off the throttle and letting Charles Leclerc go by, responding to the instruction and going a lap down there.
To say overall, this is incredibly impressive outright for Ferrari. They were so disappointed yesterday to not be in the top 3 in qualifying. Both drivers thought that if they nailed it perfectly, they could have just about beaten Hadjar, but they were perplexed that they were so far away from the Mercedes. I mean, it was 8/10 that Russell had on anyone that wasn't his teammate. It's not that in race trim. In race trim, obviously the starts are their own thing, and that's what gave us this position. But outright race pace, they're closer. Remember, Russell is on 12 laps fresher tyres. He is quicker, but only by half a second on the last lap. It's not night and day like it was yesterday.
Yeah, Ferrari were really unhappy as a team of how they executed their qualifying session. Basically, they felt they left a load of time on the table. In race pace, they are competitive. They're on for a 1-2, but they do need to make pit stops. Oscar Piastri speaking to the world's media. Disappointing day for him. And still, the incredible stat of having no Australian driver on the podium here in the World Championship era. Brilliant drivers like Webber, Ricciardo and Piastri still can't find their way to the rostrum. Okay, Ferrari have an advantage over George Russell. The danger man is now 4.1 seconds away. He is clearing the sole remaining Cadillac in the race, which is Sergio Perez, Mexican driver, 6-time Grand Prix winner, back in Formula One, having missed last year.
Yeah, both the Mercedes running significantly quicker. In the case of Russell, half a second than Leclerc and Hamilton. And then that's 0.8 of a second if you go to Antonelli. So both those Mercs are now getting themselves into the hunting zone of the Ferraris. So Hamilton at the moment managing his pace relative to Leclerc. But anytime soon, he's going to start seeing that Mercedes in his mirrors.
Yeah, right now the race is in the balance. The Ferraris are being caught by the Mercedes of George Russell. Antonelli's done the fastest lap on the last lap as well and is closing in. A full safety car, they'll pit for fresh tyres and they'll be right with the Mercedes, and the race will be back in their hands. And given the attrition rate, look how many cars we've lost already, 5 out.
And so how far does Lance Stroll go? Because earlier in the week, Aston Martin was saying lap 25 was about the maximum, and that could play a massive part in the destination of the Grand Prix, because they run that to the absolute maximum. It's not a case of what we saw with Fernando Alonso, which is coming back by choice to retire the car.
Yeah, well, it's Grand Prix racing, and one way to develop that product is to go the distance. We know that Alonso had an issue, but so far Stroll is out there collecting data, getting mileage, feeding all that information real time back to Honda, and they'll be working to try and find solutions round the clock under a budget cap, of course, which is one of the challenges of not getting it right straight from the beginning.
Hamilton lost a lot of pace on the last lap. You can see it there on the graphic. Russell took a good chunk, 0.8 out of him. Didn't take much out of Leclerc.
Down to turn 3, there's a few laps ago. Pierre Gasly late on the brakes, trying to get past his old foe Esteban Ocon. Bang through, but under investigation for that move.
Well, let's just try and unpack it. You can see the damage to his front wing end plate where that contact was made. It's still largely speaking in place, but it seemed to me there's no question that Ocon knew he was alongside, as Ferrari have now decided this is the moment.
Well, that's the call. They don't feel that they can go any further. You ideally would run this as far as possible and hope for a virtual safety car or a safety car. They're going to get neither, and they're going to sacrifice the lead. Charles Leclerc has been called to the pit lane.
Well, that surprises me. That surprises me a lot. Any peel, so the race leader is coming in. That's going to be a full 19-second stop. He's going to come out well behind Antonelli, and they lose any chance of benefiting under another safety car. Given we've already had a couple, you think, can you hang on? The pace was okay.
Well, we will find out in the remaining laps whether this is a strategic error or it works brilliantly for him. But armed with the information we have now, plus 2 virtual safety cars, this is very peculiar.
Yeah, it seems like that is exactly what Mercedes would want. A full racing speed pit stop for Ferrari, out of the race lead. He's now miles behind both Mercedes, and any safety car now, Russell can pit and come out ahead and be on fresher tyres.
And in all consideration, when you've got the teams that did the fewest laps in testing, Cadillac, Aston Martin, Alonso's gone back out, they've done a fix and they've put him back out there. When they're all still running, there is a big opportunity on the evidence of 9 days of pre-season testing that those cars will struggle, or at least there's a chance. It's not like the bulletproof era that we've had before. Either way, Ferrari just deciding they couldn't go any further.
And they had the track position, they still do with Hamilton. But until Russell is right with you or overtaking you, keep the track position. Hold George back, make him use his tyres to come through. That has worked out perfectly for Russell. Hamilton now has the race lead. What will he do?
Yeah, he's staying out, but on those old tyres, he's running consistently, and he has done between half a second and 8/10 slower than George Russell. And with the tools they have at their disposal, how can he defend in the way that you could in the previous formula?
Let's have a look at Lewis Hamilton's tyres. With so many new elements to Formula One in 2026, we've barely talked about the strategy, but you can see serious wear front left for Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, his times were dropping away a little bit more than Charles Leclerc's as well. So Hamilton stays out. He wanted the split strategy, didn't he? And he's got it. Of course, Ferrari had to pit, but when we've had so many cars dropping out, so many safety cars, and they have the track position, you think, is it worth sacrificing the race lead and that for a full racing speed pit stop? Mercedes now 1 second away from the race lead with George.
Well, the answer to that question, you know, is no. It wasn't worth. But, well, let's see. A lot of laps still to be done, but Hamilton cannot be in the best of shape with those medium tyres. We've heard the drivers complain less about drop-off in performance this year, this compound, this track, this formula. But that is a lot of laps on those tyres.
It is indeed. The old teammates, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell. Hamilton last year moving to Ferrari. This is the start of his second season. And Hamilton coming off the back of a season where there was no front row start, there was no pole position, there was no podium, there was a single sprint win in China. And Ferrari in a much better place than they were, if you consider that the majority of the laps they led last year was the Hungarian Grand Prix in the middle of the season. They've led plenty of laps today, but getting your strategy right has proved key, even with all of these new things in Formula One for this year. It still appears that that could be defining for the Scuderia.
Russell has overtake available then, and he's going to use it. He's going to use it to full effect. Hamilton recharging the battery, going really slow in towards turn 6. But is it enough to stop the Mercedes? Full beans, a little bit more available to him.
On board with Lewis Hamilton, this flat-out section. George Russell looking to the inside and not being given away by until now. George Russell has had to wait his turn. George Russell back into the lead of the Australian Grand Prix, and Ferrari, who held a 1-2, see Mercedes hit the front again.
Yeah, he had to wait just for the nature of the curvature that takes you up to turn 9. He sort of came into that mode a bit earlier than he would have liked on Hamilton. And in the end, Hamilton went for the normal race line, allowing Russell to come on through.
And now Hamilton pits. So losing the track position, not able to hold Russell up by enough. Hamilton will pit and come out behind Leclerc.
So into the pits comes Lewis Hamilton. It's Russell, Antonelli, Hamilton and Leclerc, but Leclerc will go through and he claims his spot on the podium.
What sort of pace can the Ferraris do now? They'll have fresher tyres by 13 laps over the Mercedes. Will the Mercedes need to pit again?
Okay, I think the one stop is viable.
Copy that. Loves a long-ranging one-stop, doesn't he?
Always has. The cars being weighed this year without the weight of the tyres.
I guess the thing is as well, if he's feeling comfortable with the DEG as it sits right now, fuel's going to continue to burn down. That's less maybe of an overall effect this year. But he can afford to wait to see, is another safety car or virtual safety car coming up?
Big lock-up for Lindblad as we watch from Ollie Behrman's point of view down towards turn 3. So this is a fight for what is technically the best of the rest behind the big 4 teams, both having really good races. Lindblad, the star of the opening laps. Behrman just plugging away at it. He's made a pit stop.
Yeah, these names are definitely the future of Formula One. Both young guys familiar with competing against each other in the lower formulas and firmly in the points here, which Bortoletto in the Audi. I know it's the Sauber team rebranded, but that would be quite nice for that team if they were to score points on debut.
Of course, for Ferrari, they didn't get the chance to pit at the second virtual safety car, which would have been a better decision. They would just round it and then the pit lane closed. So it was a nightmare scenario for them strategically at that point.
Yeah, but you can only use the options available to you. That wasn't an option. The first one was.
Yeah.
Alex Albon gets past his teammate Carlos Sainz. He's up to P12. And that wasn't a contest at all. Rocket ship pass for the Thai driver, trying to score his first points today since the Italian Grand Prix last year in September. Albon currently running in 12th. Gasly being investigated for his overtake on Esteban Ocon.
That is going to pay out a point at the moment. They started well out of the top 10. Gasly 14th on the grid, Ocon 13th, but taking advantage of others. Driving unnecessarily slowly is now going to be investigated after the race. So I'm assuming that's to try and recharge the battery, and he's done something a little bit strange. Was that when Gasly started to fire it up? Because it was a massive closing speed, wasn't it?
Yeah, of all the things that you can criticise for as a Grand Prix driver, driving slowly, it's got to hurt the most.
Yeah, unnecessarily slowly. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, I think Esteban might have quite a long reply to that as they learn the new deployment modes around the circuit.
Yeah, I think we should note the fact that this is a journey of discovery, not only for the teams, the drivers, but also for the stewards who have, let's say, amended the rules of engagement, the racing rules, the interpretation of what is correct. They've been heavily influenced, of course, by those who know best, which are the race drivers themselves.
Yeah, the drivers basically wanted more leniency. You can still get awarded penalty points, but it's for obviously unacceptable moments rather than lockups that might have accidentally caused contact. That was all initiated by the controversial collision between Kimi Antonelli and Oscar Piastri back in Brazil last year. David Behrman watching on. His son at the moment going well, running in 8th position. And Haas would be delighted with that. They were happy with the way that they ran in qualifying. But all of the teams are aware that they're still discovering with every lap that they run how best to operate these cars. Here's the world champion, Lando Norris, 35th champion of the world. And he finds himself the sole McLaren in the race after Oscar Piastri hit the wall on the reconnaissance lap. George Russell saying it feels windy out there. Up to 25 kilometers per hour being reported to him on the radio by his race engineer Marcus Dudley.
It's, I might say, a little bit surprising. Let's say the race of the sole McLaren. I somehow felt that they were a little bit more in the hunt, but I can't really see where there hasn't been a major issue for Lando on track, but it just doesn't seem as if they're able to deploy the performance that Mercedes engine strapped to the McLaren that the main Mercedes Grand Prix team are.
Yeah, there's a big gap, isn't there, between the Mercedes performance and the McLaren performance with the same power unit.
seems like Mercedes are just able to extract a huge amount more from it.
Yeah, in fairness, that was the opposite, of course, in the previous.
They are narrower, more dynamic if you're watching by the side of the track. New era of Formula One, but still keeping your tyres in the window for as long as possible. That is absolutely key. And Lando Norris not happy with the degradation of these Pirellis right now.
Well, he's chewing through them really quickly, more than McLaren were expecting, I think. Verstappen within a second, so once again he'll get overtake enabled, which will allow him to deploy his battery power for longer down the straight, and he'll get that everywhere. That begins down towards turn 3.
Virtual safety car is out. The virtual safety car is deployed, and we will get the information as why that is required. Debris there. Well, we've seen a bit of wheel banging with at least 4 cars in the field.
A barge board that's come off, like long pieces like a stay that comes from the side of the chassis. Yeah, it is indeed.
Brave marshals at that point of the circuit, even with the virtual safety car. It's kind of blind, you can see it for the drivers.
Well, marshals can't enter the track without the permission of race control. So race control would have said that's okay, and there is the barge board of the Cadillac being thrown from the car.
They don't want that back, they probably don't have any spares.
So that's ending. It's ending very, very quickly because of the marshal recovering it. So anticipation time, green flag flies at Albert Park once again. Hosting its 29th Australian Grand Prix today. Lando Norris ahead of Max Verstappen, but it doesn't look likely to stay that way. And he has a look. There's no need to take any bold, late-breaking move for the inside of 11. Those medium tyres on the Red Bull working a lot better than the hard tyres for Lando Norris. And the driver who started in 20th place is looking now at 5th. A superb recovery drive for Max Verstappen as Lando Norris comes in to change tyres.
He's going to get his medium tyres that he didn't want then for not 26 laps, 24 laps to try and do. There you go then. Eke out another couple on a shod set of hards instead.
Yeah, it always tends to be the case that tyres and in your sort of prediction of how long they'll go as a track rubbers in, as a Grand Prix distance increases, the tyre wear tends to become more in your favour. So he may not have been loving it, but I suspect he'll be able to take those to the end.
So Antonelli lost out by about a second in that VSC compared to Russell. Was just getting the gap down slightly. Neither Mercedes had the chance to pit under the VSC. It ended just as George was coming around the penultimate corner. So I think they probably would have taken that chance were they afforded it. It would have given Charles Leclerc the race lead again, but Russell with much fresher tyres to go and hunt him down to get to the end of the race. Antonelli had Albon in the way for that VSC restart. You can see them in the background there. He's now cleared Alex Albon, but that cost him a little bit of time to his teammate.
Okay, first race of the new regulations, so reliability cannot be guaranteed at all. Fernando Alonso is back in the pits. They repaired things, they put him back out there. But Stroll continuing to run for Aston Martin, beyond what they thought was possible at the start of the weekend. He is at the back. Perez and Sainz. Sainz has lost a lot of running this weekend with mechanical issues. They've really been struggling. Lawson's had some wheel banging moments with Sergio Perez. Colapinto was given a penalty for a start infringement. We saw he was slow off the line on the formation lap. He was penalised for it. Alex Albon finds himself in 12th position. Good battling with Gabriel Bortoleto earlier on, saw him ahead of Gasly and Ocon, but as this stint has unfolded, they have managed to jump him. Lando Norris unhappy with the tyre wear in 8th position. He will still, though, have the grip to easily get past Behrman, and they'll go on for Arvid Lindblad, who's trying to become a point scorer on debut, the 18-year-old. 15 seconds behind Max Verstappen, who started in 20th position, has moved through to 5th in the order, and then the Ferraris versus the Mercedes to win the opening Grand Prix of the year. As we go down to the first turn, on board with George Russell, who chases Grand Prix win number 6 of his career. He's had to wait his turn, hasn't he? He for so long wanted to be promoted to the team when Mercedes rattled off 8 constructors' titles in a row. He was waiting at Williams. In hindsight, Toto Wolff has said they maybe left him with Williams a year too long. But Mercedes this year, as so many predicted, have at the early stages created a car that is working so well with the new regulations.
Yeah, look, he served his apprenticeship. He's been waiting for the moment. When he got to Mercedes, it coincided with them dropping in form, so I don't think anyone would begrudge him his apprenticeship in Formula One to the point where the Grand Prix is already won, and then this seemingly long way to go, but seemingly world championship shot with this package.
He's in his stride now, isn't it? You can just hear him coaxing it around, recharging in towards turn 9, which is where everyone's desperate for a little bit of energy harvesting, downshifting, reducing speed into that corner, just to keep the battery topped up and allow him to deploy it all evenly around the circuit. Charles Leclerc made a mistake on the last lap. He lost a 1.5 seconds. So he has dropped now away from Russell's safety car window as well. If there is a safety car, Russell can pit and come out ahead of Leclerc. So this is looking very good for Mercedes.
Yeah, Mercedes, as soon as they got the clear air, you wondered whether they would be able to show what they have done for the majority of the weekend, and their superior pace is telling at the moment. The team that last year won just 2 Grand Prix, both with George Russell, very much expecting to beat that tally in Formula One 2026. We said that Lando Norris would catch Oliver Behrman quickly. He has done so. He's his way to turn 12. This is 13. The final corner of the racetrack is directly ahead. Norris will know that if he's going to defend his title, he will need what McLaren have shown so well in recent times, a rapid rate of development. Remember, they're a custom Mercedes team, so they have the Mercedes power unit, but they do not get the latest specification until this weekend. Didn't have it at pre-season testing. Mercedes have developed that. They fully understand it. McLaren will be going through a process of understanding the power unit and how to deploy the energy throughout. Easy move for Norris, who moves up to P7.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? As a customer team, then, well, you are customer but competitor. Mercedes Grand Prix would take a small pride, as you can see, that closing speed and then squeezing speed into turn 9, and you can see that only one of the lights in that mode is working, unless, Julian, that's a particular signal, because it comes on late as it goes into super clipping. Both of them are in place. Normally you'd have the 2 warning lights deploy on the end plates at the same time, but it's almost like they're showing different harvesting.
So it's Russell Antonelli, then Leclerc and Hamilton. Gasly is able to get up to 9th position. Sainz fighting as well. And Sainz had a really difficult time in Australia, a race where he has won in the past, back in 2024, but unfortunately the Spanish driver really struggling. But he has got at least some racing action ahead of him. Talking of racing action, another pass for Lando Norris, who reclaimed 6th position, and he's made light work of Behrman and Lindblad. And Lindblad still on for a point-scoring finish, but Behrman will want to put big pressure on immediately. And here's Gabriel Bortoleto. In his 2nd season of Formula One, he's able to get past Esteban Ocon. These three have been battling lap after lap after lap. It's Gasly with the advantage at the moment, Bortoleto up to 10th, and Ocon will try and come back. He's currently P11.
I suspect Bortoleto might be able to pass both of them. He's on fresher tyres, having a great run in the Audi, and the team will be so chuffed with how they're starting life in Formula One to be looking at some points. Sainz battles with the other Alpine. Let's see then if Bortoleto, with overtake available, Gasly may be a little bit vulnerable here. Has Gabriel Bortoleto got more in the tank?
Audi's first Grand Prix in Formula One, the old Sauber team. That name is no more, and Audi, who have built their own power unit as well. Not the easiest thing to do with complex regulations, but they are running with one car. Bortoleto very pleased to reach Q3 yesterday, wasn't able to compete in it because he had an issue, but he's all over the back of Gasly. Further up the order, this is the battle between Oliver Behrman and Arvid Lindblad. And Oliver Behrman, oh, that was a late chop. Behrman saw it coming. Behrman takes the place.
Well, Lindblad is definitely not shy of, well, being, let's say, aggressively defensive. He's coming back.
He uses the boost to get by, but you can't use too much of your battery power without paying for it badly on the flat-out run from 6 to turn 9, and it wasn't enough. And through goes Oliver Behrman. You see, changing speeds there. Colapinto recharging the battery into turn 9. Sainz had the momentum, had to back out of it when he was looking for an overtake. And now Sainz, bottom left of your picture, is trying to go around the outside. Still unable to get by. Colapinto holds the place.
Sainz desperately down on miles. Here we go with Lindblad trying to get back on Behrman.
How much is he prepared to drain to the battery to take back the place? That's brave from Oliver Behrman. Kept his foot in. And Lindblad went to the dirty, dusty part of the racetrack, but crucially kept it on the road.
Oh, we felt that, Julian, didn't we? Out there, it's a different level of adhesion, and not in a good way.
Yeah, it's dusty, dirty, and you're carrying a lot of speed in. I have to say, that's really impressive from Behrman. So he's used the energy from his battery to make the pass. He's then been vulnerable for the rest of the lap, but he's basically used old-school racecraft to keep Lindblad behind, braking late into the corners, shuffling him to the outside. Really tidy stuff, and he takes the place for now.
Yeah, and this is, like you were explaining there, Alex, this sort of difference that you get when one is in harvesting mode, the other one is still using a bit more deployment. And it's tough for the drivers to deal with this big difference in closing speed that you would never have seen in any other formula.
Yeah, this is totally new. There's no precedent for this for any of the drivers. Their journey up through the ranks. And the swapping continues. Ocon was at the head of this battle, then it was Gasly, now it is Gabriel Bortoleto. Bortoleto, 5 times a point scorer in his rookie season, would love to get up and running inside the top 10 at the start of his 2nd campaign. The rookie wave that came through last year, they all had brilliant Grand Prix across the board.
Let's try get it one more time.
Lindblad pleading to have a battle. No, I know I've got to keep the battery in check, and I know I've got to have it, but I want to try and fight Oliver Behrman. And Behrman making a 1-second break for it, but squirming all over the road as he applied the power. Into the pits comes Max Verstappen.
Yeah, interesting. Is he going to set it hards on, which, given we're getting towards the lighter phase of this race, he's going to come out there behind Lando Norris.
So they're in their scrap for 5th place. A little bit too far away. Well, remember, Max started from the back of the field, so 5th place would be a solid result for him. Lando started in 5th by the time his teammate didn't take the race start. So Verstappen on fresh tyres. The hards he can really lean on. The mediums, they are graining a little bit. We heard Norris's feedback on them. Verstappen dealt with them a lot better, but was an awfully long way for him to try and get to the end of the race with his earlier VSC stop. So he'll go hunting now, and he looks like he's just happier with the Red Bull package than Norris is with the McLaren package. He's had not the most comfortable of weekends. The reigning champ back to Melbourne, scene of a great win for him last year, but it started with a lack of mileage in FP1, and I feel like he's never really caught up.
Pole position and the win 1 year ago for McLaren's Lando Norris. Fifth behind the Mercedes and the Ferrari. Last time around, Lewis Hamilton was 0.2 of a second quicker than Charles Leclerc. It's very even pace between the Mercedes out front, who are looking to claim what slipped through their fingers in the early stages of the race when they were both slow off the line. Charles Leclerc was able to pick his way through. Antonelli was down to 7th place at one point. Both drivers have kept their heads and cycled through. 6 seconds between George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Russell looking for just a 6th win in Formula One. Antonelli would be the 2nd youngest winner in Formula One history if he was to climb to the top step. Russell looks like he's got one hand on the trophy. With these new rules, though, you never know until the last lap. Pierre Gasly, entertaining battle with Gabriel Bortoleto with Esteban Ocon, using all of the curb and a bit more through turn number 5.
Yeah, fast corner, of course, and they've run it out. That's one of the most sort of street feeling elements of this racetrack. Make a mistake there, and you will be having a rendezvous with the wall in no time at all.
5 straight zones around this racetrack. There's no DRS in Formula One anymore, but we do have active aero to make the cars quicker in a straight line. You can deploy it, you get it every lap, no matter where you are. Every car, every lap. 5 zones around the racetrack. And this is one of them. The high speed, still the Haas in close proximity. Out of the points at the moment. Behrman having another really strong race in Formula One. Ocon trying to improve, make it 2 Haas's in the points. Ocon had a difficult end to Formula One in 2025, but he did score in the final Grand Prix of the year. Laid on the brakes, but not risking it into 11.
Well, these two have form, don't they? So we've seen them touch once. This could be getting up close and personal.
Verstappen's just done the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He's done a 1:22.0, and he's honing in again on Lando Norris, who he passed before his pit stop.
I feel like they've been battling for years as well. They have been entertaining us out front for a long time. This time it's for 5th place as the pecking order's shifted. I'm overall pretty encouraged by Ferrari. I think they've been a bit outgunned on strategy today. I would have liked to see them do something a little bit different to make Mercedes work for this a bit more. Even if they split the cars, as Hamilton suggested at the first VSC, I felt they had to do something to try and keep the Mercedes behind. But in terms of pace, they're much closer than I think anyone expected. Mercedes have got a small advantage still, but this is nowhere near the gulf that we saw yesterday. And I think this circuit really suits Mercedes in terms of having long straights, massive deployment and recharging. This is the track that's going to exacerbate all of racing in this new generation of rules. There will be some circuits coming up where energy harvesting won't be anywhere near the problem that it is around here. You haven't got big braking zones. You've got, for example, here, as we see Max hit the brakes, but then you're straight back to throttle. You're deploying energy. There's not enough big braking zones to get that regen going, so you don't have to be lifting on the straights, and that's where Mercedes have a massive advantage. Ferrari will be more competitive, and I think they're in this fight this year.
Verstappen is pushing hard. He knows now's his best chance on you.
Yeah, he's been pushing on, as you mentioned there, Alex, getting fastest lap of the Grand Prix. It feels like, just picking up on that, Julian, the first 3 Grand Prix, we go to Shanghai next and then into Suzuka, they're all long, high-speed circuits with limited sort of regen areas. So this might be a sort of scene setter for those first couple of Grand Prix before we get into tracks that are more favourable.
Yeah, I mean, Bahrain for testing was much more regular. The energy charging was nowhere near as severe, and Ferrari were really competitive. I know it was testing, trying to read into it is always difficult, but they were so happy with the car there. They were really disappointed yesterday, but in race trim it already looks better. Shanghai will be a little bit easier. There's the whopping back straight, which is going to see a lot of harvesting towards the end of it. But apart from that, it'll be a bit easier with some bigger braking zones throughout the rest of the lap. And that's really what you need to try and get some energy back into the battery without the cars having to slow on the straight.
Verstappen running that lap just a little bit quicker than Norris, so chipping away at that gap. He'll be able to get the extra boost when he's getting in that 1 second window. So does Norris have anything? Tyres, we know, are relatively fresh. Both of them have made 2 stops.
On board with Esteban Ocon on the left-hand side of your picture. Full frame, we're watching Max Verstappen close down both drivers, part of the Champions Club after last year. Separated by 1.2 seconds on track. At the end of the World Championship, they were separated by just 2 points. As Verstappen fell just short of the comeback of all comebacks in Formula One. And Norris has been given encouragement by Will Joseph on the radio. And given that we saw it come down to 2 points last year against all expectations, where McLaren looked dominant at the start of the year, that's a lesson to underline. It is a long way to Abu Dhabi, and the development race is going to be something special. These cars are going to take a big leap forward as we make our way through the season, but ultimately, any rules of racing that you like, you want to get past the driver in front, and Verstappen is now within 1 second.
Hards versus mediums. You mentioned earlier, Julian, that Verstappen just seems more comfortable in those hards. He can be more aggressive in the way he drives the car in the corners.
Yeah, 7 laps fresher, his hards, than Norris's mediums. We saw that to its detriment yesterday. The aggression that he can have on corner entries, and his driving style really working hard to hit the brakes, get that front end in. Yesterday it was too much. He had a big rear lock on the edge of a big brake, and a load of extra from the rear obviously sent him into the wall. But generally his style is fairly well suited to these cars. Red Bull obviously not with the overall performance of the Mercedes and the Ferrari, but he is going to have a chance. You can hear harvesting for Norris down in towards turn 11. Verstappen getting closer, and on the next lap they'll have no back markers ahead. So they've cleared Colapinto, they cleared Sainz, who peeled into the pits, and Verstappen will have a clear run now on Norris.
Round the final corner to begin another lap of this 3.2 mile circuit. And you can see the McLaren team watching on as Norris clings onto it. That's what they're fighting for. A replica of Jack Brabham's steering wheel. The 3-time world champion. Still Australia's most successful driver in Formula One, and the benchmark for all hopefuls making their way through from go-karting to the Formula One level.
Looks like Verstappen is now just getting in that window, wants to be close as they come out of turn 6, and then he'll have that run to try and overtake before 9. It's been a popular place in this new Formula One that we have.
And the sound of the turbocharged engine, 50% coming from the electrical power of the battery. Making their way through 9 and 10 now. Verstappen ever closer. 11 can invite a late braking move, but he's nowhere near doing that on this lap.
So he has overtake available, which gives him the chance to use more energy for longer down the straight, whereas Norris has to harvest. Obviously, it kind of gives you a bigger tank for a short time of deploying energy, but I don't think Max actually has anything more to offer at the moment. So he needs to recharge to be able to use that to overtake.
Yeah, you can see coming off the final corner, absolutely on the edge of adhesion. So a telltale sign that he's using everything he can out of that performance of the chassis to try and get himself into a window. This is, let's say, Red Bull powertrains against Mercedes power.
This lap looks better already for him in towards turns 1 and 3. So was he just waiting, harvesting a bit of energy that lap, even though he was allowed to use a little bit more, to go full tilt to Lando this time around? They're coming down towards turn 6, so we've got the long drag coming up. Has he got a little bit more to offer? Because that time he didn't have the closing speed at all.
No, it looks like you can see Lando is doing a great job of maintaining that gap. where it counts. So Max is just way too far back to be able to take advantage on this lap.
Into 9 and 10 we go, the fast chicane. Made even faster a couple of years ago when they removed the chicane that was further down that straight to make it a better overtaking opportunity. In your main picture, Lando Norris, an 11-time Grand Prix winner and 1-time world champion. Max Verstappen, 71 Grand Prix wins and a 4-time world champion, scrapping over 5th place. And you were watching Kimi Antonelli, who at one point had got the gap down to 5.5. George Russell has responded, and it's 5.8. Mercedes will be taking off the laps, and we're very hopeful of delivering a 1-2. It was a strange destination to get them back to the front after a slow crawl off the line. So Charles Leclerc lead a number of laps against expectation today, given the advantage that we saw in qualifying for Mercedes. Qualifying one thing, the race quite another, and Max Verstappen looking, studying, understanding where the McLaren is recharging, and then thinking how he can do it differently, then enter in the driver's skill as well. And will he try something towards the end? Will he feel the need to risk it? Or will he just claim 6th place? You know Max Verstappen's going to go for any gap that's on offer.
Yeah, he would get in where a draft wouldn't. He is super impressive when it comes to wheel-to-wheel. But you've got to see Lando doing a great job of neutralising him at this phase. And these are the only 2 of the top 6 that have pitted for those extra tyres. Russell, Antonelli, 2 Ferraris, as we know, are on this one stop as we get into the final stages of the Grand Prix. So let's just watch the body language of the Red Bull car. You can really see that Max is hustling to try and get it as close as he can off the final corner, but the McLaren chassis is working well there.
Yeah, Max demanding a lot from the rear tyres there, slowing it down, using the rears a lot more into 13, trying to keep this footing through the final turn as well. Looks slightly closer this time around. Norris so far is doing a brilliant job at keeping it clean and making sure he's not vulnerable with a low battery, so he's able to keep that recharge high. Verstappen would hope that any missed apex, anything that goes wrong for the McLaren ahead will give him a chance to pounce. But so far, Lando is keeping it perfectly in check and making sure he drives sensibly as well.
So Norris in 5th, Verstappen in 6th. The point score is completed at the moment by Behrman Lindblad, who would be a point scorer on debut at just 18 years of age. Gabriel Bortoleto giving Audi their first points in Formula 1, and Gasly and Ocon was separated by a second. It's gone up to 2.9. Haas driver dropping back from that fight. Lawson's closing in on Alex Albon. Both of them out of the points at the moment, and still the closest battle on track is the one that you are looking at, between the top 2 drivers in the world last year.
Well, there doesn't seem to be any concerns on Verstappen's side about running in slightly turbulent air. It's not going to enhance the downforce he has through the corners, but I'm saying it more for they don't seem to be temperature management limited. Imagine the huge amount of heat dissipation you've got to deal with when you're chucking in close to 500 horsepower and kilojoules into that battery.
7 laps to go. Keep pushing. Doing well.
Yeah, leave me to, mate. Thanks.
Hamilton still wants a podium here. He's 2.7 seconds back from Leclerc, so that's what that's all about. A bit of internal bragging rights and a chance to pop some champers in a few moments' time.
We've got to imagine that our race leader is kind of managing the pace out front, but he did a 22.7, Antonelli a 22.6, Leclerc 22.9, Hamilton 22.6, Verstappen and Norris 22.5 and 22.6. That would, if you looked at it, you'd go, Formula 1 is really close and competitive. Of course, we're looking at Norris and Verstappen 52 and 53 seconds behind Russell, combination of that extra stop.
I think Russell's bringing it home right now. They seem to have won the first battle of 2026 if the cars just stay reliable, and that's all that's going to derail the Mercedes charge. Interestingly for Verstappen, so we don't have DRS this year. Every time you see the rear wings opening, the front wings opening as well, and it's active aero. So Norris does it as well as Verstappen. It also means the cars run basically maximum downforce for the corners, and then they are minimum downforce for the straights. And it means the natural slipstream then is lower because Norris has less drag. He'll open his rear wing and the front wing. There we go. And it means that there's less of a hole to be punched for Verstappen. So the natural slipstream effect is less. There's no DRS, so if you've not got the battery, if you've not got more energy to deploy, you're stuck with a minimal slipstream. It's like Monza racing, always.
Yeah, it's described perfectly. You used to get that benefit with DRS if you're following the car within the 1 second window, where it would take off a huge amount of drag and downforce, of course, but it just gave you that overspeed. And what we're getting to understand as this race unfolds is how the cars can go racing. And right now, Lando is doing more than enough to hold the pace of Verstappen on those fresher tyres. The medium working well on the McLaren.
Yeah, that's why I think Verstappen had to go for the hard, because he is sliding around. The temperature that you were describing on everything in the Red Bull, sitting in that dirty air, but sliding around there is working the tyres harder as well. So going on the hards will keep them in check for longer. But the slipstream effect is just really low. Every time we look and see a natural closing speed that happens in all forms of motor racing and cycle racing and all of it, it's just reduced because of active aero. So I'm sure Max underneath the helmet will just be thinking, come on, give me something more here on the straight.
Yeah, and bicycles, it's about 30% energy you save if you're following somebody in front. So that's exactly where you'll find me when I go with the mammals, the fellow middle-aged men in Lycra.
You're not sitting on the front, DC?
No, my days of punching a hole in the air, long, long behind.
Charles Leclerc responding on the last lap in his battle with his teammate to stand on the lower step of the podium. And he was quicker on the last lap. Hamilton getting to that 3 second window. Leclerc just marking him off last time around. Verstappen with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, but now dropping back to 1.4 seconds. Lawson trying to close in on Alex Albon. If you're one of our newer viewers, top 10 score points in a Formula One Grand Prix.
By the way, Norris just did his best lap of the race on the last lap. Only a quarter of a second off the fastest lap of the race. So that's why the gap's just elongated between those two. Was he holding back, saving those medium tyres he was worried about, and now he's thinking, a few laps to go, let's send it.
Yeah, it does feel now only reliability can get in the way of this finishing order. We've learned a lot, haven't we, today? We've seen a lot of pass and repass early in this Grand Prix. Then it settled down. I'm going to see a little smirk or smile from Toto. He's got it, you know, it's back, isn't it? Mercedes is back. And you got to admire that when they were going through the dip, they kept, you know, being honest and transparent. And, well, these big regulations have given them an opportunity to innovate.
How long has George Russell waited for this as well? 8 seasons of Formula One for George. It feels like he's not been around that long. Got into Mercedes at the end of their dominant period. Valtteri Bottas left the team. 2022, Russell turns up. Ground effects, they weren't great at it. Suddenly they didn't have the best car, which they had at least the best or very similar to the best car in 2021. And his chance has had to be put on hold for a long time, but he has been driving at such a high level for a very long time. He's shown Toto Wolff and the management why he's been a great hire to replace Valtteri Bottas in 22. Now's his chance with a title-winning machine, and he has been on such good form this weekend.
Yeah, won in his first season with Mercedes in Brazil, straight fight with his teammate Lewis Hamilton that day, separated by less than 2 seconds across the line. And then in 2024, he picked up the pieces from Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, battling. Great win in Las Vegas last year. 2 wins, 1 in Canada and 1 in Singapore. But he's been playing cameos in the overall narrative of the season. That is about to change. It looks for all the world like Russell is going to get his first tilt at the title. Antonelli only 4.5 seconds away, though. The gap will be 7 points in the World Championship. If it finishes like this, George Russell's never led the World Championship any stage of his career.
Yeah, well, he's just about to. And what is super impressive as well of this, the pace of the top 6 cars. We've got Russell not far away from lapping Behrman, who's in 7th place. It's very reminiscent of the sort of late 90s when it was regular for cars to be lapped all the way to the back end of the points.
And you'd have 8 tenths separating the front row to the second row as well. Qualifying gaps are a little bit bigger. It will close up, won't it, pretty quickly. The other thing I want to throw in there on the penultimate lap is I think Ferrari, they might actually be in this, in the title fight. I'm sure that's given a lot of people a lot of hope, but when you think how good their race start was, Hamilton genuinely was trying to look at the race lead from 7th on the grid. This is a circuit that is in theory, easier to overtake than some. And when you look at Max Verstappen struggling to pass Lando Norris, you look at George Russell being tucked in behind Charles Leclerc earlier on. Strategy has won the day here for Mercedes. They have the best car as well. But we will go to racetracks, including China next week, where it will be hard to pass, reliability will get better, there won't be as many safety cars. So if you have these rocket ships off the line taking the lead, they will get wins out of that, even if they don't have the outright pace.
Yeah, track position is going to be so important for the reasons that you just outlined there. Imagine Mercedes being very, very conservative with their overall pace, considering it is the first race of a new regulation set, considering that they had multiple problems of unreliability in pre-season testing. Now the gap is down to 3.9 seconds, 3.8 seconds. But George Russell has got past some of the back markers, and he's going to come across the line to start the final 3.2 miles of the Australian Grand Prix. We're on the last lap.
Yeah, and Hamilton pushing into the back end of Charles Leclerc. This has been, as you say, Julian, a much, much stronger start to this campaign for Ferrari, and reassuringly a much stronger weekend for Lewis Hamilton than we saw last year. He's back.
And he will desperately be trying to force his teammate into a mistake, because he will not want to hear this podium stat over and over again. He hasn't been there for a long time, never with Ferrari in a Grand Prix. Can he force the error? Can he find a way by on the final lap of the race? A race that seems to be claimed by Mercedes in a 1-2 finish. And the last time they did that in a season opener was back in 2019. They've had to wait for a return to the front, but Albert Park is going to give them one if they can complete the final few sectors. And now into the final corners of the racetrack comes George Russell, a champion in the third tier, a champion in the second tier, but he's had to wait for his chance for the title in Formula One. He's ticking off the final corners. George Russell now into the penultimate. The crowd will acclaim him once again, and the Mercedes man applauded across the line. The pre-season favourite begins with a win. George Russell wins the Australian Grand Prix. It's a Mercedes 1-2 in a season opener for the first time since 2019. But they do seem to have a battle on their hands with Ferrari, who have led laps today, and they are separated across the line. Charles Leclerc completing the podium, Lewis Hamilton only 0.6 of a second behind. And it is Mercedes, Mercedes, Ferrari, Ferrari, smiles on the faces. I mean, he's almost laughing, Toto Wolff, the CEO and team principal. For a title as well, haven't taken a driver's title since 2020. Lando Norris is coming around the final corner now. Behrman was lapped, and so was Arvid Lindblad. But Arvid Lindblad scores points as an 18-year-old on debut. Audi score points in their first ever Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly is in 10th. And over the line, further up the road, the last cars that weren't lapped, Lando Norris stayed ahead of Max Verstappen. And it was a slightly longer road back to the front than Mercedes might have expected. Off the line, not so great. By the flag, P1, P2.
You ripper. Great job. Awesome drive. Awesome weekend. Well done, mate.
Woo! Very nice, very nice. I like this car, I like this engine. Great job.
Copy the star on the front.
Mercedes and George Russell take the opening win of the year. He was the pitch of intensity when he got out of the car and wandered into the paddock this morning. Took a private route, didn't want to stop and be disturbed, and just wanted to get in, get the job and complete the job, and he's done that.
Was that his best Kimi Antonelli impression?
I think he's going to have to explain that. I think we were hearing a private joke on the team radio there. Kimi Antonelli with a second place.
Give us a George.
You boy. Nice work there, Kimi. Great recovery. Felt a little bit tense at times there, mate, but yeah, great job bringing it back.
Thank you, everyone. What a start of the year. Thank you.
Well, only his fourth podium in Formula One. He equals his best with P2. You feel that that breakthrough win is not too far away. George Russell back to the pits. He's led laps here in the past in Australia. He broke down from the lead in 2023. And your driver of the day, Max Verstappen, who went from 20th on the grid to 6th position. A great recovery drive. The retirements, Hülkenberg, Piastri, Hadjar and Bottas. Alonso had pulled into the pits, had the car fixed, got back out there. Stroll finished in the end 15 laps down. They were doing a similar thing with a test session. George Russell picking his way through. Got a couple of podiums around here, but never a victory.
Georgie, congratulations, well done. It's a good start, car and power unit, and the driver combination. Really good. Congratulations, really well done. We're all super thrilled.
Yeah, great job, everybody. Been a long time since we've been here, so very well deserved for all the efforts.
With the advantage, pass and repass with Charles Leclerc at the start. Would have been wondering if they were going to have to get inventive. As soon as strategy came into play, they were able to take that stop under the virtual safety car, then claim the lead, and he stayed there. And he never looked likely to be deposed from P1 once he had achieved that position. In the end, 2.9 seconds across the line. Antonelli will be pleased if you consider that maybe without Max Verstappen's red flag in qualifying, Antonelli might have had to come from the back. Hugs between the two of them, but they might be the two for the title fight, and that could be very interesting for us to enjoy across our 9-month run to crown a champion. Mercedes back on top in Formula One, pole position and victory for George Russell. Hugs all round. Different pressure when you're expected to rattle off victories week in, week out. The most wins he's ever had in a season is 2. And the expectation will now be, every single time he comes to a paddock on a Sunday, that he's going to be the driver to beat. He's met those expectations this weekend, and he takes 25 points in the World Championship. Charles Leclerc, 7 times a podium finisher last year, getting his first in the opener of 2026. Hampton still chases that Grand Prix podium, but it looks a lot better with this regulation set. That is your provisional top 10 and point scorers. And the debrief has begun between the two that were fighting for the lead in the opening half of the race.
Did it look slightly touchy there between Charles Leclerc and George Russell, explaining maybe a bit of racing earlier on?
Well, Russell was on the radio asking and mentioning about the late chop. I'm sure we'll hear from both of them in a minute in conversation with the 2009 World Champion Jenson Button, and we'll get their thoughts having completed the first podium of the year. We're racing again in a week's time, Shanghai International Circuit. And now let's hear the thoughts from those who are going to occupy the podium in a few moments. The top 3 for the opening Grand Prix of the year, speaking to Jenson Button.
Congratulations, George. You just won the Australian Grand Prix, but not only that, you've also just won the first F1 race of the new era. How are you feeling?
Feeling incredible. It was a hell of a fight at the beginning. We knew it was going to be challenging. I got on the grid. I saw my battery level. I had nothing in the tank, made a bad start, and then obviously some really tight battles with Charles. So I was really glad to cross the finish line. But honestly, thank you so much to the whole team, because it's been a long time coming to have this car beneath us, and I'm going to start off in a better way.
If you look at the results after the race, if you hadn't watched the race, you'd think, oh, Mercedes just had it easy. George just walked away with it. It wasn't quite like that, was it? And it was so nice for us as fans to see you guys fighting out there.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. It was, we had this suspicion that it was going to be a bit of a yo-yo effect. And as soon as one of us got in front, it just felt impossible to hold it. And obviously with this straight mode, we lose a lot of the front end on the car, so we're sort of just understeering a lot around these corners. So I'm sure the FIA are going to have to improve that a little bit, because it was a bit sketchy, but yeah, made it in one piece, and just glad to be 1-2.
You started the year as you had hoped, I'm sure. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Kimi, that was a very up and down race, but congratulations on coming home P2, 1-2 for the team. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it was the best start we could have wished for. Unfortunately, the start was really bad and lost a lot of pace. I mean, a lot of places, and I find myself, you know, that I had to recover. But overall, was a good race. The pace was very strong, especially at the end, and yeah, just looking forward to next week.
I think every time we watch the screen, you were overtaking another car. So it's nice to see in this new era that there is that opportunity to overtake.
Yeah, I mean, the racing was incredible. The first few laps, you know, with the overtake is so powerful that it can, you know, give a lot of action. So it was really good fun at the beginning. And yeah, now a bit of rest and looking forward to China.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Charles, first of all, thank you for making that race proper exciting with George. How was the car? How was the race? How is this new era of F1?
It was a very, very tricky race. I mean, honestly, at the start, I don't think anybody of us knew what to expect with the fights, with the energy, and then it's even more tricky for the overtakes to defend. You don't really know when your engine, your battery is going to cut in the straight. So while defending, there's massive speed differences. So it's been quite challenging, but I was happy to get out of this battle in first. Unfortunately, that didn't help us for the rest of the race, but it was a fun first part of the race. Then P3 is the best we could do today.
Yeah, that start was kind of what everyone expected from Ferrari, but you made the move on George in turn one. It looked like it was actually on the brakes rather than acceleration.
Yeah, and I think the person that is switching off the lights have been quite cheeky, because for the first start of the season with these cars to go so quick, lights off, was, I think it took us, everybody, by surprise, and we're always very much on the limit with the power units. So I think that played a little bit in our hands, but it's part of the game. I mean,
I have to ask, without the virtual safety car, do you think you would have had an opportunity to fight George for the win?
I don't think so, but maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it looked like Mercedes maybe had a bit more pace than us today, but maybe not as much as what we saw yesterday, so that's a good thing. But I don't think we could have one.
Congrats, guys.
The top three. I think they're all expecting other questions. The top three. In conversation with Jenson Button. And Ferrari up and running with a podium in the opener. The cars crossing the line together. 0.6 of a second between Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. Interesting that Charles Leclerc didn't believe there was the chance to fight overall for the win, but you just don't know. You force your rival into a position that they don't want to run in. The car's different in clean air to dirty air. And Melbourne P1 2026 sums it up nicely from George Russell, who's signing the champagne. He's going upstairs in a minute to spray it, and here his national anthem. But mission complete. The first race of the season. That's the moment they all dream of. Seeing the checkered flag first. And smiles all round in the Mercedes garage. Russell beating his teammate to the win. Antonelli very pleased to recover, losing positions off the start. And the crowd awaiting the first podium of the season. George Russell is the 7th different winner in the last 7 Australian Grand Prix. So the fans that turn up en masse are treated to a different name on the top step in recent times. Kimi Antonelli has tied his best career finish with P2 in a Grand Prix. And the Ferraris 3rd and 4th. Lando Norris in P5. That's his 5th consecutive top 6 finish in Melbourne. So again, he shows a strong form. Our winner last year and did well to hold off Max Verstappen, whose 10-race podium run, which is the 2nd longest of his Formula One career, has come to a halt with that P6. But considering he rose up the order from 20th, pretty decent. George Russell in 2026. DC's name there on the left a couple of times, 1997 and 2003.